Chapter 678. Coupled with his deep gaze, the three women next to him were about to be charmed to death by her husband. Yi Hua took out the most trashy weapon from his collection. It was a double-edged saber called Dongfeng Shengfeng. He had already forgotten how it came to be. As for why he picked the weakest one, it was because if he picked a better one, the other party might not even be able to take the first hit. Yi Hua, who was holding onto two blades in his hands, looked even more attractive, especially when the three women looked at Yi Hua's back view. So tall and big, it was as if it could suppress all evil. Qing Tian was able to sense the spiritual might that Yi Hua's weapon was emitting, and he was slightly shocked in his heart. This man sure has a lot of treasures. However, I, holding the heavens and earth, can still fight you with my bare hands. Having changed his limbs, Optimus Prime had an advantage in close combat, especially with his pair of pig hooves. He was definitely an existence that could destroy the heavens. In Optimus Prime's heart, there was even a glimmer of hope for victory. Yi Hua had a cigarette dangling from the corner of his mouth. He was wearing a silver battle armor and holding a Dongfeng Shengfeng in his hand. His entire person looked very imposing, especially the cigarette at the corner of his mouth, which was emitting a faint fiery light. As Yi Hua inhaled, the fiery light gradually became brighter, and Yi Hua exhaled a cloud of smoke. If you are able to make my ashes fall to the ground, I will consider it your victory this time. Yi Hua said faintly. He saw that the cigarette but had already exposed a small section of ash. As long as he waited for a minute, this section of ash would fall off. Qing Tian roared, I'm going to take your cigarette. Smash your face into pieces. Boom. In an instant, a tremendous amount of spiritual energy burst forth from the pillar, and all the yellow sand within a radius of 1 mile was blown away by this spiritual pressure. Dark clouds began to draw closer to the pillar, and the spiritual energy continued to rise. Thunder rumbled, as if the god of death had descended. Yi Hua narrowed his eyes as he looked at God raising heaven and earth, and he tightened his grip on the twin blades in his hands. Ha! Die! God raising heaven and earth shouted out angrily, and the Qilin arm immediately swelled up to the size of at least a bus. Bringing along a destructive aura, the Qilin arm rushed towards Yi Hua. This punch wasn't like Feng Tian's. In terms of strength, Feng Tian Di was the strongest, and with the help of the Qilin arm, this punch had reached the peak of perfection. It was truly terrifying. Yi Hua looked at the Qilin's gigantic arm that was coming towards him faintly and took a puff of the cigarette. The ash on the cigarette had increased by quite a lot. The ground beneath Yi Hua's feet was trembling, and the immense pressure caused the corner of Yi Hua's mouth to slightly curve upwards. If this heaven and earth supporting artifact had used its brain a little, it wouldn't have ended up in this world. Yi Hua slightly extended the blade in his right hand forward. Bang! A loud sound suddenly erupted. The ground cracked, and thunder rumbled. The huge cyclone whistled in all directions, and the air waves produced by the cyclone collided with Voidless Realm's barrier, causing the entire barrier to tremble violently. From this, one could see how terrifying the collision between the two was. The gigantic Qilin's arm was blocked by Yi Hua's Dongfeng Shengfeng. The comparison between the gigantic fist and the blade seemed to be a bit exaggerated. Although it was a bit exaggerated, Yi Hua did not move in the slightest. However, the amount of soot on the ground increased by quite a bit. Is this the power you're so proud of? Hee hee. Yi Hua laughed, and his laughter was filled with infinite ridicule. Qing Tian was a bit shocked in his heart. That punch of mine can be counted as the punch that I gave my all, but the other party actually did not have any reaction at all. How is this possible? The other party did not even move a single inch. Yi Hua's gaze looked towards the cigarette ash at the corner of Yi Hua's mouth. It should be falling soon. As long as it falls, I will win. Don't get carried away. Look at my legs. Heaven and earth God shouted out. In actuality, the true power wasn't in the fist, but in the pair of huge pig trotters. Those were the legs of a primitive godly beast. Although Yi Hua wasn't able to unleash its full potential, it was still very powerful. If heaven and earth God were to know that Yi Hua was playing around with a primitive godly beast, he wouldn't think like this. This is so terrifying. Yi Hua looked at heaven and earth God's legs that were becoming infinitely bigger, and he couldn't help but think of an ultimate move. Heaven's legs. I wonder what would happen if heaven's legs were to step on a nail. Heaven and earth God's legs became infinitely bigger, and the aura that was emitted out from the legs of a primitive godly beast was indeed frightening. After all, there were some primitive godly beasts that even overlords didn't dare to provoke, let alone some primitive godly beasts. God knows where heaven and earth God found the legs of a primitive godly beast. The frightening aura floated in the air, and the pair of huge pig trotters that were indomitable could make people suck in a mouthful of cold air. Qing Yutong looked at the huge pig trotters blankly and mumbled, "I wonder how these huge pig trotters taste like if they are roasted." Qing Yu raised her hand and patted onto her little sister's head. "Qing Yutong. This isn't a pig, your taste is too heavy." "Oh. My head is going to be smacked silly by you too." Qing Yutong rubbed onto her head. "Brother-in-law likes to smack, big sister also likes to smack. Why am I, Qing Yutong, so bitter?" However, big sister's words seem to be a bit right. My taste is indeed a bit heavy, I like to smack with brother-in-law. Although I, Qing Yutong, have not succeeded yet, but as long as I, Qing Yutong, work a bit harder, brother-in-law will definitely be willing to smack with me. When I think of brother-in-law smacking me, it feels so good. Looking at her little sister who was giggling foolishly, Qing Yu felt helpless. What if my little sister really becomes silly in the future? I can only let Yi Hua take advantage of me, as long as Yi Hua doesn't mind. Why would Yi Hua mind? Right now, I am unable to like my little sister. Looking at the huge pig trotters, Yi Hua took another puff of his cigarette. A large chunk of cigarette ash was already on the cigarette, but it still did not fall off. No matter how strong the astral winds were, that chunk of cigarette ash was still stubbornly standing, as if it would not fall off no matter what. Feeling the power coming from his legs, God supporting heaven and earth felt that this kind of feeling was incomparable. I have never experienced it before. Looking at the tiny Yi Hua in front of him, God supporting heaven and earth shouted out, "You will become minced meat under my feet. When fighting, talk less and do more." Yi Hua said faintly. "What I hate the most is talking about when fighting. In the past, I have often met such people. Can't you just fight properly? Who will win and who will lose will be known very quickly. Yet, you insist on saying a few words, as if by doing so, you will be able to be a bit more powerful, or rather, as if by saying those words, you will be able to win. This is simply stupid to the extreme." God supporting heaven and earth naturally heard what Yi Hua said. Without saying anything, he suddenly raised his pig trotters. And with this raise of his foot, the air seemed to have been moved, and a storm revolved around the pig trotters. A huge amount of spiritual energy spread out, it was extremely terrifying. Yi Hua slightly raised his head. "Sometimes, I feel that being unrivaled is really lonely." "Die!" God supporting heaven and earth shouted out angrily. God supporting heaven and earth's right foot landed on the ground. Before God supporting heaven and earth's right foot even landed on the ground, a layer of the ground caved in, and cracks appeared on the ground. Yi Hua also caved in along with God supporting heaven and earth. God supporting heaven and earth seemed to have already seen Yi Hua being trampled to death by God supporting heaven and earth. Who asked this man to brag? What bullshit justice is this? Chapter 679. Boom boom boom. The pig trotters stomped down, causing the entire ground to shake violently. At that moment, all the creatures in the desert were scared out of their wits. Those who were closer couldn't withstand the pressure of this kick at all. They didn't even have the time to cry out in pain before their voices were shattered. The three women standing nearby were not worried at all. They knew the man's strength. This kind of battle was like a game to him. There was nothing to be afraid of. Qing Tiandi looked at his feet excitedly. He didn't move at all. How could he be alive when he stepped on him? He was probably a meat patty by now. Ha! Now, do you know that my power is not something you can withstand? Qing Tiandi roared towards the sky, and the crazed expression on his face looked incomparably malevolent. Qing Tiandi felt that he had already reached the bottom, and it was impossible for Yi Hua to survive. Really? A familiar voice rang out, causing the excited heaven and earth to freeze. His foot had already reached the bottom. Why was he still alive? That voice had indeed come from his foot. How was this possible? However, if one were to take a closer look, Yi Hua was holding onto the blade with one hand and was blocking the huge hoof that was holding onto the heaven and earth. However, no matter how much strength Yi Hua exerted on the huge hoof that was holding onto the heaven and earth, Yi Hua felt that he was unable to step on the huge hoof, because he did not have the strength to do so at all. You! Qing Tian's expression changed as he felt a terrifying aura coming from beneath his feet. Yi Hua shouted out, Qing Tian, you are the first person who dares to step on me. Upon sensing Yi Hua's anger, Qing Tian hurriedly retracted his leg. However, no matter how fast he was, how could he be faster than Yi Hua? Qing Tiandi saw a silver light flash past, and he felt a slight pain in his right leg. A line of blood appeared on his right leg, and blood flowed out from his right leg. Then it comes off very smoothly. Boom! The huge pig trotter fell onto the yellow sand, and the blood flowed all over the ground, fusing into the yellow sand. The blood that came from the ancient divine beast attracted a large number of mutated animals, and they dared to come over without any regard for their lives, and they sucked on the pig trotter's body. They didn't even let off the pig trotter's meat, and the scene made people feel numb. A large pig trotter was instantly gnawed into bones. Impossible. How could you defeat a primeval divine beast? Impossible. Qing Tian didn't care about the broken leg. Instead, he glared at Yi Hua and questioned. Yi Hua silently inhaled a mouthful of smoke. The ash on the cigarette was already as long as a fingernail, and it was a bit bent, seemingly about to fall off at any moment. In your heart, is an ancient divine beast a very powerful species? Yi Hua asked back. Isn't it? Yi Hua sneered, seemingly mocking Qing Tian's ignorance. Young man, you are too inexperienced. I shall let you see what a primordial divine beast is. Yi Hua could be seen stretching out his index finger, and a circular black hole appeared in the air. Looking at what Yi Hua is planning to do. However, there seemed to be a strange sound coming from within the black hole, and suddenly, a silvery white figure flew out from the black hole. Woo, 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 this was the unique cry of a husky. That's right, this is Yun Lang, the one that Yi Hua caught to make up the numbers. Just that, the way in which Yi Hua appeared was a bit embarrassing, seems like he was kicked out by Yi Zizi. Yun Lang flipped over and shook off the sand on his body. Then, he licked his lips. Yi Hua looked at Yun Lang, and his complexion became a little bad. The corner of Qing Tian's mouth twitched. This man dared to insult him with a husky. Unforgivable. Qing Ye and the others covered their mouths and laughed lightly. My husband wanted to act cool, but in the end, this Yun Lang was actually kicked out by Yi Zizi. Afterward, Yun Lang rolled on the ground and even wagged his tail, looking as if he didn't know anything. Yi Hua really wanted to stew Yun Lang during the new year. A living ancient divine beast actually turned into a dog. Did your dignity get eaten by yourself? Qing Tian suddenly shouted out loudly, is this your so-called ancient divine beast? I didn't expect that you are such a humorous person. A husky can also be called an ancient divine beast. I'm going to die from laughter. Yun Lang was originally sticking out his tongue at Yi Hua, but after hearing Qing Tian's words, he seemed to be a bit unhappy, and his dog head slowly looked towards the tall and big Qing Tian. If the Yun Lang just now was a husky, then right now, that unique gaze of his looked a bit like that of a wolf. Furthermore, it is the kind of wolf that is very handsome, just a single gaze of his would be able to seduce you. Woo, 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 Yun Lang let out a long howl. After howling, he suddenly felt that something was wrong. This is something that dogs love to do, roar. Yun Lang let out a new howl. This howl actually produced a sonic boom, and it attacked towards Qing Tian. Meanwhile, Qing Tian's expression sunk, and he placed both of his hands on his chest. However, how could he, who only had one leg, withstand the attack of an ancient divine beast, and his entire body fell backwards? Qing Tian's heart was in turmoil. I actually got drunk by a husky. How is this possible? I am just a husky. A husky that demolishes houses. Yun Lang's body was gradually becoming bigger, and the fur on his body was like steel spikes, and his terrifying fangs were exposed to the air. This is a true ancient divine beast. Qing Tian looked at the enlarged version of the husky blankly, and his heart seemed to be a bit unable to withstand such a blow. How did the husky turn into an ancient divine beast, and with just a howl, he actually managed to blow me down? Yun Lang's gaze was fierce as he let out a low howl. His body slightly leaned downwards, and he was prepared to pounce onto Yi Hua at any moment. Yi Hua took another puff of his cigarette, and half of the cigarette ash had already formed, but it had yet to fall onto the ground. This Yun Lang's entrance is a bit weak, but what he did just now still gave me face, and it can be considered as making up for my mistake. Impossible. Why would an ancient divine beast listen to your orders? Qing Tian couldn't understand. Ancient divine beasts are the highest grade spiritual creatures. Why would they listen to a human's orders? This is something that has never happened before. There are still a lot of things that you don't know, no. Qing Tian let out a miserable howl, and his body instantly bounced up, and his remaining left leg kicked towards Yi Hua's side. Yi Hua had already kept his dual blades, and the armor that he was wearing on his body had also been kept. These things are really unnecessary. I only wanted to act cool just now, and let my wife and sister-in-law worship me. As for the current situation of the battle, Yi Hua didn't need to worry about it anymore. Because Yun Lang had already made his move. As an ancient divine beast, Yun Lang's explosive power was very terrifying, and his biting ability was also top-notch. Looking at that big pig trotter, Yun Lang unconsciously swallowed his saliva, and without thinking too much, he directly bit onto that pig trotter. When Qing Tian saw that the ancient divine beast was actually rushing towards his leg, a joyous expression appeared on his face. No matter what, my leg is also an ancient divine beast. It shouldn't be hard for me to kick it to death, right? The idea is good, but the reality is cruel. Chapter 680. In actuality, the leg of a prehistoric godly beast is very nutritious. Qing Tian, who had lost both of his legs, fell from the sky and laid on the yellow sand with a dazed expression. My strongest trump card was actually broken by someone. It wasn't a person. It was a husky. This is impossible. Yun Lang was still hugging onto the prehistoric godly beast's meat and chewing on it. So fragrant. Yi Hua slowly walked towards Qing Tian's side and said faintly, "Actually, you didn't do anything wrong. If I had to point out a mistake, then it would be choosing to become my enemy." Qing Tian laughed, "So you are actually such a powerful person. I have underestimated you." "A lot of people underestimated me. That's because I am low-key and never flaunt myself." Yi Hua felt that he was low-key enough. "My wives are obviously very beautiful. If I were to bring them out, I would definitely be envied by others. Seems like I have to bring them out for a walk in the future." Qing Tian sighed lightly. "Actually, this kind of ending is really good. Living alone is really boring." If it was the Yi Hua in the past, he would definitely deny this sentence. How can living alone be lonely? Didn't I, the Supreme Overlord, get used to living alone in the past? However, the current Yi Hua agreed with this sentence, because with a wife and children, only those who have experienced such a family would know how terrifying that kind of loneliness is, to the point that it can even torture someone to death. If Yi Hua were to return to his previous life, he would definitely not be able to do it. He would only become even more berserk and become a homicidal maniac. "And loneliness is very scary," Yi Hua said faintly. Qing Tian looked towards Yi Hua. "I feel that we should be the same kind of people." "Perhaps," Yi Hua said faintly. "Send me away. I am tired after so many years. I need to rest." Qing Tian said faintly. "I don't want to continue fighting anymore. I am too tired." I don't even know why I have been living for so many years, and I only found out now, although it is a bit late. Yihua lightly inhaled a mouthful of smoke, and the ash finally fell to the ground. Looking at Yihua's ash falling to the ground, Qing Tian laughed lightly. I won. Yihua didn't say anything and turned around to leave, and the ash turned into blue starlight in the sky and landed on Qing Tian's body. Qing Tian slowly closed his eyes and murmured, Debao, let your wife light a family bucket when we attack Sand City tonight. The towering sky above the yellow sand turned into blue stars, drifting along with the wind and merging with the blue sky. Yihua took a deep breath. Today's matter didn't make me happy at all. Why would I be unhappy? Is it because all of us died? Or could it be that I don't want them to die? When did I become like this? I look like a sissy. I often scolded Qingye and the others for being indecisive and indecisive. Today, my mental state is also lacking. Looking at Yunlang who was at the side who was gnawing on a bone, Yihua said faintly, after you finish eating, we will head back. Woof, Imperial translation, yes your honor. With a grave look on his face, Yihua walked into Voidless Realm. The three women took a look at each other. Yihua is a bit strange, is he unhappy? Logically speaking, the death of an opponent like Qing Tian should be something to be happy about. But, what's going on with Yihua? You all should go and take a look at brother-in-law, don't get depressed. Qing Yutong chose to leave first and let her big sister and big sister Baiji go and comfort brother-in-law. When brother-in-law is free, I will properly comfort brother-in-law. I guarantee that every part of brother-in-law's body will feel comfortable. Qingye and Donghuang Baiji naturally had to go and take a look at their husband. It was very rare to see their husbands so worried. Previously, he seemed to have been worried about his aunt's matter for a few days. The two wives arrived at the palace's backyard. Yihua sat on a rocking chair and lightly rocked back and forth. With a cigarette between his fingers, Yihua looked at Voidless Realm's sky. In actuality, Yihua was thinking, other than those old men, Qing Tian also caused me to suffer a loss. If not for the appearance of soul separation, it would have been very hard for Voidless Realm's image to be changed. It would also be impossible for me to send my own people to kill people and then put on a show. Although the end result would still be the same, the appearance of soul separation was heaven's will, and the decision to kill people at the start was also her own decision. What does that have to do with me? I just made use of her a little. That Qing Tian used the heads of 300,000 people to frame me. From this, it could be seen how vicious this person is. However, today, he was willing to die for his friends. Yihua couldn't figure out what exactly Qing Tian was thinking. I was originally still thinking about how you are going to play this game of chess. Yet, I didn't expect that you would actually destroy this game of chess, and furthermore, you did it when I was the happiest. Thinking up to here, Yihua's brows wrinkled. Motherf asterisk Ker. Yihua shouted out gravely. This Qing Tian is using his death to make me unhappy. What a ruthless man. How terrifying. Yihua, you are speaking vulgarities again. Qingye directly sat on her husband's thigh, then snuggled into his embrace. The Empress was the same as well. The two women seemed to be planning to use a woman's gentleness to make their husband feel at ease. Obsession sure is scary. Yihua said faintly. Qingye said tenderly, Yihua, didn't you always say that the choice is chosen by others? Their choice made me very disappointed, and I suddenly feel a bit disappointed. Donghuang Baiji kissed onto Yihua's cheek. Don't you still have us? Don't you still have the children, and a group of loyal subordinates? Yihua laughed. That's right, I still have you guys. We are a big family. Big family. The two women said tenderly. They understood what Yihua meant by big family. Yihua had included all of his subordinates into his family. In actuality, every time Yihua hosted a gathering, it could be seen that he really enjoyed the time he spent with his subordinates. As a leader, Yihua was a bit fierce, but as a friend, Yihua didn't put on any airs. Let's go shopping. It has been a long time since I accompanied you guys out for a walk, bring Ah Li and Yen along. Yi Hua said. Sometimes, I still have to return to my normal life, I can't continue living like this forever. Qingya pouted her small mouth and said, You are still talking about going shopping? Every time I ask you to accompany us to go shopping, what do you say to me? That's right, it's as if accompanying us to go shopping is very embarrassing. Dong Huang Baiji had an unwilling look on her face. The Empress is very cute. Yi Hua didn't blame them. In the past, when they asked me to go shopping, I would always reject them. What's the point of going shopping for something as boring as going shopping? I might as well stay at home and watch Calabash Brothers save Grandpa. Chapter 681. I, the Supreme Overlord, have always been living my life according to my own wishes, and I rarely think about them. It's time for me to look at things from their point of view. As expected, after hearing Yi Hua's promise, Qingya and Donghuang Baiji were extremely happy. As long as Yi Hua said it, he would not be able to run away. After all, Yi Hua was a supreme overlord, he would not lie. Come, let's go shopping, I haven't bought clothes and bags for a long time. Qingya was already impatient, she really wanted to go shopping. Donghuang Baiji was the same, I heard that a lot of new goods have been released, Qingya, we can't keep up with the times. Yi Hua still didn't know what they meant, they were blaming him. Let's go, call the little fellows. Yi Hua stood up and extinguished the cigarette butt. When the two little fellows heard that they were going out to play, they became very excited. They immediately changed their clothes, then dragged their mother who was putting on makeup and told them to hurry up. Qingya and Donghuang Baiji had not gone out for a long time. Women's nature was to be beautiful, so they had to put on makeup and whatnot. Although there was no need for them to put on makeup and whatnot. However, Donghuang Baiji was now a public figure, and Yi Hua didn't want to cause any chaos, so he asked Donghuang Baiji to slightly change her appearance. She turned into Qing Yutong. This caused Donghuang Baiji to feel very depressed. I can't even use my original appearance when I go shopping with my husband. In actuality, Yi Hua was a bit selfish. If everyone were to know that I am the Empress's husband, who would dare to provoke me? Right now, Qing Tian is already dead, the only one who dares to play with my brain against me. What a pity, this kind of talent is very hard to find. This kind of talent has never appeared in the past. After changing into ordinary clothes, the family finally went out and went to Long An City's shopping center. 1 hour later, Yi Hua brought the two children and sat in a cold drink shop. Donghuang Li and Yi Yan were drinking fruit juice, while Yi Hua was holding onto an ice cream cone and licking it from time to time. Going shopping with a woman is no different from committing suicide, and I actually agreed to this kind of thing. As expected, I can't be emotional, I was still too impulsive. Daddy, I'm so bored. Donghuang Li said while holding onto a big cup of fruit juice. Yi Yan let out a breath. I really don't know why mothers like to go shopping so much. Her's legs are about to break. Yi Hua let out a light sigh. Your mother loves to go shopping the most, and she won't come out for a few hours. Daddy, let's go and find something else to play with. Donghuang Li jumped down from her seat and pulled onto the corner of her father's shirt. Yi Hua felt that his daughter's suggestion was pretty good. Where are we going? As long as it is not here. Yi Yan begged in a low voice, expressing that Yi Yan is most afraid of shopping malls, and that Yi Yan doesn't have to come here anymore in the future. Yi Hua agreed with his son's opinion. Let's go, Daddy will bring you two out to play. Oh yeah, alright. Yi Hua carried the two of them with each of his hands, and just like a stay-at-home dad, he walked out of the ice cream shop. You guys, quickly take a look and see if Mom is here or not. Yi Hua said gravely, as if something big had happened. Donghuang Li and Yi Yan immediately became serious, and they began carefully observing the enemy in their surroundings. Daddy, if you didn't find Mummy, you can just slip away. Donghuang Li said in a low voice. Yi Hua's gaze became serious. All right. Yan, pay attention to the 9 o'clock direction. Ah Li, Pay attention to the 6 o'clock direction. Report immediately when you see the enemy. Yes. Yes. The two little fellows accepted the order, and with an excited look on their faces, they slipped away with their father. Meanwhile, Qingye and Dong Huangbaiji were standing on the second floor. Looking at their husband sneaking away with the two children, Qingye's expression sunk. However, they also felt that it was funny to think that Yihua actually has such a side to him. He even said that he would accompany us, yet he couldn't even hold on for an hour. Dong Huangbaiji said coquettishly. What a big liar, he doesn't keep his words. Qingye said helplessly, 1 hour is already more than enough. In the past, he would be called away in less than 10 minutes. Forget it, let's go shopping by ourselves. It is fortunate that you are here, if I was alone, I would be bored to death. Ha, I am the same. The two women were holding hands, and they were getting more and more harmonious. This was also the situation that Yihua wished to see. Yihua, who was carrying the two children, successfully escaped. Daddy, this is too fun, we escaped. Yi Yan clapped his hands and shouted excitedly. If I was caught by my mother just now, I would definitely be scolded. Dong Huangli was also grinning from ear to ear. Daddy, let's play more often in the future, alright? Yihua nodded his head. At the very most, I only taught them how to practice techniques, but I rarely interacted with the children. Today, I had a sudden inspiration and played around with the children for a while. Such an action of mine definitely cannot be seen by others. If someone were to see it, I would definitely kill them to silence them. While carrying the two little fellows, Yihua stood on the busy street. There were many people walking to and fro on the street, but it was different from before. Right now, everyone's physique had improved, and their complexions looked much better. Furthermore, there were many people who had the mark of strength on their chests. What stars, moon, nowadays, it doesn't matter if you have a car or a house, as long as you have a few stars, it would be fine. This was a world where the strong were respected, and even a rich person couldn't compare to a single star. This allowed some youngsters to see hope. Through their own efforts, they were able to reach the level of a cultivator and bring honor to their ancestors. Yihua was very satisfied with the current world. Everyone should have the right to pursue what they want. I, the Supreme Overlord, can bestow everything to you, but don't make the wrong choice. Once you make the choice to die, no one will be able to save you. A person who was wearing a bear mask was currently handing out leaflets, and Dong Huangli curiously took one of the leaflets. Big sister, what's on this? Yi Yan asked curiously. It's Long and City's gymnasium, which is currently holding a challenger tournament. Dong Huangli placed the leaflet in front of her father. Originally, Yihua didn't want to go and watch these boring things. I might as well go and watch a movie. Isn't there a new movie called Venom that was released recently? I heard that it is very awesome. However, looking at the children's expectant eyes, Yihua didn't have the heart to reject them. Let's go and take a look. Yihua nodded his head. Dong Huangli and Yi Yan were extremely happy, and while hugging onto their father, Yihua's face was filled with saliva. Why would Yihua dislike his own children? And in the eyes of others, the relationship between father and son was really good. While carrying the two children, Yihua walked towards the gymnasium that was not far away from him. Just when he got close to the gymnasium, ear-deafening roars could be heard coming out from the gymnasium. This made Yihua think of the scene that happened on Blue Blaze Planet. The people on Blue Blaze Planet also like to watch duels like this. Seems like humans like duels like this. Chapter 682. Bringing along the two children, Yihua bought the tickets, and under his son's strong request, Yihua also bought popcorn, cola, and Cheers lollipop. Walking into the gymnasium, deafening cheers sounded in their ears. The two little guys were very excited. They jumped out of their father's arms and looked inside the gymnasium. They saw a marble arena in front of them. Two warriors were fighting, and people were waving tickets in their hands, cheering for their contestants. Yihua shouted out faintly, "Don't run around, follow me closely." Although the two little fellows were excited, they did not dare to ignore their father's words. They obediently followed behind their father and found their seats. Yihua slowly sat down, while Dong Huangli and Yi Yan sat at the side. Dong Huangli and Yi Yan were drinking cola while watching the fight. On the arena were two youngsters. Their strength levels were imprinted on their chests. They were both 1 star, belonging to the ranks of cultivators who had just stepped into the ranks of cultivators. A fight of such strength was nothing in front of the two little fellows, but the atmosphere at the scene was quite good. The two little fellows seemed to be in high spirits and began to cheer for their favorite opponents. Yihua took out a stick of cigarette and lit it up. This kind of fight is already boring to the extreme. However, the atmosphere is pretty good. At the very least, it is more interesting than accompanying my wife to go shopping. Sister, who do you think will win? Yi Yan sucked on the iced cola in his hand and asked curiously. Dong Huangli pursed her lips, "It doesn't matter who wins, it's fine as long as we are happy." You're right. Yi Yan agreed with his sister's words. As long as he was happy, he didn't care who won or lost. Yihua naturally heard it, but he did not say anything. To be able to make my child happy is already an honor for you. However, if you want to make my child happy, you'll need to use your brain. As the competition continued, one of the men was punched out of the ring. The audience immediately cheered, but some sighed helplessly and tore the tickets in their hands. Looking at the situation, Yihua shook his head helplessly, then looked towards the children beside him, and saw that all of them had actually fallen asleep. At first, they were clamoring to come and watch, but now they were so bored that they were sleeping. When Yihua saw that Yan had fallen asleep while leaning on Li, a trace of a smile appeared on the corner of Yihua's mouth. Yihua didn't wake up the children and just let them sleep. The second match soon began. Ladies and gentlemen, the battle between two Moon Class elites is about to begin. I'm sure it will be a great visual experience. Let's go. As the host shouted, Moon Class elites walked out from both sides. After hearing that, Yihua felt bored as well. What kind of visual enjoyment could a Moon Class elite have? After all, they had gotten used to the exciting life, and after a while, they would be bored to death. If this went on, would he have to return early? However, when he thought about the child in his wife's womb, Yihua felt that it was better for him to stabilize the situation first. Yan is still young right now, and it would be beneficial for Yan to stay here and properly learn first. Supporting his chin with his right hand, Yihua's gaze was placed on the stage. The two people on the stage were exchanging blows with each other, and the two of them were releasing quite a bit of spiritual energy. Moon Class elites were too powerful. The people who were watching the battle were in awe, and they even looked at Moon Class elites with admiration. Yihua's eyelids became a bit heavy, and the ash from the cigarette fell onto the clothes that he was wearing. The cigarette butt at the corner of his mouth also gradually extinguished. The father and son trio actually fell asleep in this kind of environment. It was simply unbelievable. Not knowing how much time had passed, Qingye and Donghuang Baiji walked out of the shopping mall while carrying big and small bags. The two looked at other people's boyfriends whose hands were filled with bags, and then looked at their own. I'm really envious, Qingye smiled helplessly. In the past, I had also fantasized about having a boyfriend who would follow behind me and help me carry my bags. From the looks of it now, it is impossible for that to happen in this lifetime. Qingye, you still have such a scary thought. Yihua would only help us carry our bags when the sun rises from the west. Donghuang Baiji teased. It is already not bad for a chauvinist like him to accompany you out for a walk. Qingye smiled sweetly and said slowly, of course, a girl would hope for a man to dote on her. Baiji, have you not fantasized about it before? Alright, I don't even dare to fantasize about it. It is getting late, it is time to go back and cook. Qingye looked at her watch. It was already 5 p.m., unknowingly, they had actually strolled around for 3 hours. Donghuang Baiji nodded her head, let's go and find them first and see what Yihua is doing with the kids. Qingye sensed Yihua's aura, and very quickly, she found Yihua's location. The two women bought tickets and walked into the gymnasium. Right now, the battle was still in full swing, and the battle had not stopped at all. Yihua is actually bringing the kids to watch this. Qingye said angrily. How old is Yan, and yet he is watching this kind of thing. Right now, Donghuang Baizhi was a lot more open-minded. It doesn't matter if they watch it, this is just a normal battle, and there won't be any fatalities. Baizhi, you have changed. In the past, you were always standing on my side. Qingye couldn't help but pinch the empress. Donghuang Baizhi said in a low voice, be careful, Yihua and I might join hands to bully you. Let us wait and see then. Qingye mercilessly retaliated, causing the empress to laugh continuously. All of the men in the gymnasium were looking at the competition, and none of them paid attention to what was happening over here. These two women are much more good-looking than the men on the stage. Holding hands, the two women found their husbands. However, when they saw the appearance of their husbands and children, they felt as if they were struck by lightning. Yihua could be seen sitting paralyzed on his seat without a care for his image, and unknowingly, the two little fellows were already lying on their father's body. The main point was that saliva was actually flowing out from the corner of Yihua's mouth. This was what caused Qingye and Donghuang Baizhi to be astonished. How could the two women let go of such an embarrassing situation? The two women immediately took out their phones and started taking photos of their husbands. You even said that we salivate when we sleep at night, but don't you look the same as us? Also, this sitting posture, where does it have the demeanor of a supreme overlord? It simply looks like. Qingye and Donghuang Baizhi didn't know how to describe it, but in any case, it looks like an uncle. Looking at the Yihua in the photos, Qingye and Donghuang Baizhi couldn't help but laugh out loud. Hearing that familiar laughter, Yihua slowly opened his eyes and subconsciously wiped the corner of his mouth, and his face twitched, his entire face darkened. Afterward, when he looked at his wives who were laughing, he felt that he had lost all of his face. Qingye and Donghuang Baizhi waved their phones. Yihua, you won't be able to escape this time, right? Supreme Overlord who salivates, ha 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 ha. Chapter 683. Qingye and Donghuang Baizhi stuck out their tongues. I won't delete it. That's right, that's right. It wasn't easy to capture it. Yihua took a glare at his wife. It seems like if you two don't delete the video, I, the Supreme Overlord, am going to fly into a rage. What are you glaring at, not accompanying us to go shopping, and even throwing a tantrum? I still have to send this photo to the group. Qingye snorted, then immediately sent the photo to the group. Not to be outdone, Donghuang Baizhi even sent a video to the group. You. Yihua was stupefied. Are these two women itching for a beating? To actually dare to post my embarrassing state in the group. Yihua immediately took out his phone and opened up WeChat. Sure enough, there was a photo of him in the group, and he was drooling. Her Majesty is even more amazing, Lai Gu. Oh my god, is this our boss? My worldview is ruined. Laughing emoji, Zishan, ah. My image of a male god in my heart has been destroyed, pitiful. Brett, your honor is so low, pouted mouth, Wei Chang, his honor is still as down-to-earth as always. Happy, Sun Fang, your honor is so cute, picking his nose, Yi Zizi exclaimed, oh my god. What did I just see? That's saliva. Dongfang Yuer, your wife really knows how to play, covering mouth, Yi Hong, your honor, everyone is roasting me, I think it's better for me to not vomit. Laughing emoji, Qing Yutong, brother-in-law, you actually ruined your image, crying emoji, death mage, GGG. Qingye and Donghuang Baizhi were already laughing to the point that their stomachs were aching. This is how this WeChat group is, there is no hierarchy, and everyone can freely roast each other. This is what Yihua said in the past. Meanwhile, when Yihua saw his subordinates ridiculing him in various ways, his lungs were about to explode from anger. He immediately sent an angry emoji, but not only did it not work, but the complaints became even worse. Yihua was angered to the point that he almost wanted to leave the group. I will properly teach you all a lesson in the future. Yihua kept his phone and looked at his wife. Qingye and Donghuang Baizhi were also teasing their husband, and both of them kissed Yihua. Only then did Yihua feel a bit better. My wife's lips are so fragrant. The little fellow, who was sleeping soundly, was also woken up. Mom, Qingye and Donghuang Baizhi carried the two children into their embrace, then kissed the two children, causing the two little fellows to be extremely happy. Mommy, Yan is hungry. Yi Yan pouted, looking like he was about to starve to death. Yes, Mom will go back and cook for Yan Mummy is the best. Yan likes Mummy the most. Yi Yan hugged onto his mother and acted coquettishly. Qingye was very happy, seems like I have bought over my son's stomach. Donghuang Baizhi said lightly, Yihua, let's return. Yihua stood up, patted away the cigarette ash that was on his clothes, then said in a bored manner, let's go back. The family of 5 walked on the passageway, and Yihua was yawning, looking as if he still hadn't woken up. However, just as the family was about to leave, a dragon roar suddenly sounded in the sky. This dragon cry caused everyone to be stupefied, and even Yihua stopped his footsteps, then slowly turned his body around and looked towards the sky. This? Qingye slightly wrinkled her eyebrows. This dragon roar is definitely not ordinary. Something bad is going to happen. Donghuang Baizhi said in a deep voice. Her expression was very grave. Although it was just a single dragon roar, one could still feel it. It's very strong. Although Yihua went into a daze for a moment, he immediately came back to his senses. Right now, Yihua's heart was starting to become excited, and he was also feeling an unexpected joy. I, the Supreme Overlord, was feeling very depressed today. However, this dragon roar made me feel very happy. This is exactly the feeling that I want. Just based on this dragon roar. This dragon roar is the strongest that I, the Supreme Overlord, have ever met here. I wonder what kind of surprise this dragon roar will bring to me. Donghuang Li and Yi Yan were also looking at the sky. Right now, the sky was gradually turning red, just like the sunset, the sky had turned into a fiery red color. This sudden change caused the two cultivators on the stage to stop their footsteps, then raise their heads and look towards the sky. Everyone in the audience stood up and looked towards the abnormal scene that was happening in the sky. There were even some people who were discussing in low voices. I seem to have heard a dragon roar just now, am I hallucinating? I also heard it just now, so you aren't hallucinating. Why did the sky become like this? It seems like the end of the world is coming. Could it be that something is coming? It can't be that another demon is coming, right? My God, why is it like this? Yihua took out a stick of cigarette and leaned on the cigarette, and a curious expression appeared on the corner of his mouth. When Qingye and Donghuang Baizhi saw the look on their husband's face, they immediately knew what Yihua was thinking. This enemy is completely tailor-made for Yihua. Heaven and earth had just died in the morning, but he was immediately replaced in the afternoon. It felt like the enemies were coming one after another. Roar! A dragon roar rang out once more, causing everyone's scalps to go numb. It was different from the previous roar, it was much closer this time. It was as if it was right beside his ear. He's here. Yihua said faintly. In the red sky, an illusory figure appeared in everyone's field of vision. A giant red dragon was circling in the sky, displaying its strength and mighty body to the world. It really is a dragon. F***ck me. I can't believe I've seen a dragon in my life. This is not a special effect. This is a real dragon. There really are dragons in this world. This is too unexpected, this is too unexpected, Shinran Ah. I want to make a wish. Yihua's gaze wasn't placed on the dragon's body, rather, it was placed on another item. There seemed to be something hanging on the dragon's sharp claws. Qingye and Donghuang Baizhi both saw it. Compared to the Shinran, that black thing was even more worrying. When the Shinran gradually got closer, some people finally saw it clearly. This is a Shinran coffin pulling. There's actually such a thing. It seems like it only appears in novels. That's right, I have also seen it before. Other people's coffin pulling is called Nine Dragons pulling. Qingye and Donghuang Baizhi were very confused. They had no idea what that thing was. Yihua, what is that? Donghuang Baizhi asked curiously. Yihua said gravely, inside that coffin, there is a very powerful creature. Hearing what their husband said, Qingye and Donghuang Baizhi became a bit gloomy. Because Yihua said that the creature inside was very powerful. If possible, the two women would love to hear their husbands say that although the creature inside was very powerful, it was still trash. However, Yihua didn't say anything about it. I just didn't say anything about it. Look at how worried the two of you are, I'm really speechless. The Shinran flew to the sky, and the coffin that was below its claws loudly fell onto the ground. A dragon roar sounded out once again, and soon after, the coffin flew towards the sky, as if it had never appeared in the first place. The sky returned back to its original color. Meanwhile, that coffin actually landed at the center of the stage and was deeply embedded into the marble floor. Chapter 684. Everyone's gaze looked towards the coffin, and curiosity could be seen on their faces. Even Yihua was no exception. Is there a human or a monster inside the coffin? The two people on the stage took a glance at each other, then mustered up their courage and gradually approached the coffin. This action caused everyone to hold their breaths. Just what is going to happen? Strange patterns could be seen engraved on the surface of the coffin. The two looked at the patterns curiously. The patterns seemed to be a strange painting. In the painting, there were 6 people holding weapons and facing an army. Yihua said faintly while smoking his cigarette, if I am not mistaken, this coffin should be a type of seal. Seal? Donghuang Baizhi asked doubtfully. It's just that the seal is broken now. Yihua laughed lightly. Judging from the degree of the seal, it seems to be very strong. Qingye was very curious, then, what is the meaning of the dragon just now? Let's make a hypothesis. This dragon is a species that was guarding the coffin, but after discovering that the seal disappeared, then. Yihua didn't finish his sentence. He wanted to hear what his wives thought. However, before Qingye and Donghuang Baizhi said anything, Donghuang Li said, then, it threw this threat here and ran away by itself. Ha, my Ali sure is smart. Yihua caressed his daughter's face. This is just a hypothesis, I don't know the truth behind it. Yihua laughed, but Qingye and Donghuang Baizhi didn't. Even a divine dragon is unable to contend against such a dangerous thing. Donghuang Baizhi muttered. Yihua flicked the cigarette ash, let's take a look first and see just what kind of person it is. The two women nodded their heads and continued to look at the stage. After the two people on the stage finished sizing up the coffin, they tried to use their hands to test the coffin. However, before the two people's hands could even touch the coffin, a strange aura was emitted out from the coffin. The two people's expressions changed, and their bodies began twitching violently. Life force was being extracted from their bodies and fused into the coffin. In less than a few seconds, the two people fell onto the ground like skin and bones. Yihua felt that this move was a bit similar to Yizizi's, extracting blood essence. This move was extracting life force. The difference between the two wasn't too big. Seeing the two people on the stage die in an instant, the tens of thousands of people present were so shocked that they even forgot to run away. A golden barrier instantly enveloped the arena, and the host's voice was heard, everyone, don't panic. The barrier has been activated, and the relevant personnel are rushing over. He had just finished speaking. The lid of the coffin fell down with a loud bang. From the heavy thud, one could tell that the weight was not ordinary. Even the marble was shattered. Yihua looked at the coffin in the darkness. Just who is it that walked out of the coffin? Qingye and Donghuang Baizhi became nervous. On the other hand, Donghuang Li and Yi Yan were excited, just like their father. A strange picture scroll could be seen floating within the coffin. This phenomenon caused everyone to go into a daze. Even Yihua was surprised. A painting? Furthermore, it was a landscape painting, but at the bottom right corner of the painting, a person was sitting and fishing. This wasn't strange. What was strange was that the person who was fishing seemed to be moving. This painting. Could it be that it is also a layer of seal? Qingye asked gravely. Donghuang Baizhi nodded her head. It should be. This painting should be a powerful sealing treasure, and this coffin should be the same as well. There are 2 layers of seal on it. Just who is it? Furthermore, right now, even the seal is gone. Qingye muttered. Qingye felt that the enemy this time was different from the ones in the past. A trace of a smile appeared on the corner of Yihua's mouth, then he immediately retracted his smile and put on an extremely serious expression. Seems like, the enemy this time is very, very strong. We're finished. Hearing their husband's tone, Qingye and Donghuang Baizhi immediately lost their confidence. They had seen Yihua's strength before. He was simply a god that could kill gods, and right now, he actually gave such an evaluation. Yihua, don't tease us. Just now, it was our fault, you scared us. Qingye squeezed out a smile and said tenderly. She hoped that her husband would take back what he said just now and have a more relaxed expression, as if he was facing a salted fish. Yihua laughed in his heart, but he didn't show it on his face as he said gravely, I don't have any confidence in winning against the enemy this time. Although the seal has already dissipated, you two should still be able to feel the remaining power of the seal. To be able to break the seal while it is still in place, this kind of enemy is very strong. Donghuang Baizhi's face collapsed. Yihua, what should we do then? Let's quickly return to Voidless Realm. Donghuang Baizhi only wanted to protect her family. Voidless Realm was protected by a barrier, and it was a lot safer for them. However, Yihua said mercilessly, Voidless Realm's barrier won't be able to defend against it. Qingye and Donghuang Baizhi immediately felt bad. Looking at the stern expression on their husband's face, he doesn't seem to be joking. What should we do? What should we do? Yihua, let's move to Blue Blaze Planet. Qingye immediately gave a suggestion. Since we can't win against the enemy, then let's not take any risks. After hearing what Qingye said, the corner of Yihua's mouth twitched slightly. You two want to run away so quickly? What's the rush? Right now, the outcome of the battle is still uncertain. Let's see how strong the enemy is first. Yihua didn't plan to go to Blue Blaze Planet. Daddy, I want to go and beat up the bad guy. Donghuang Li raised her fist. Ah Li, don't mess around. Donghuang Baizhi gave a stern lecture. Donghuang Li pouted her mouth. I hope that I can grow up quickly. That way, I will be able to go onto the battlefield and help Daddy out. The painting that floated out from the coffin appeared in the eyes of tens of thousands of people. Although they didn't know what the painting meant, they still felt that it was very powerful. Suddenly, the person who was fishing in the painting stood up, put down the fishing rod in his hand, then turned his head and looked outside of the painting. With just a simple glance, everyone felt that they were about to stop breathing. This is so terrifying. Just a single glance from the other party possesses such great might. Even Yihua was a bit surprised. The opponent's strength is indeed very strong. Qingye and Donghuang Baizhi had been observing their husband's expression, and their hearts were heavy. In their minds, they couldn't help but think back to Wang Debao and his wife. The tragedy that happened to Wang Debao and his wife was because they met with the powerful me. If I and Yihua also met with a powerful person, doesn't that mean that I will have to walk on the same path as Wang Debao and his wife? Women sure are easy to overthink. Things haven't even happened yet, and they are already thinking about the future. They are simply scaring themselves. With a smile on his face, the man in the painting took out a folding fan and lightly fanned himself. The mountains and rivers in the painting could be seen disappearing, and the painting turned into an ordinary piece of white paper. PFFF. A stream of flames emerged from the painting, and the painting was instantly engulfed by the raging flames and turned into dust. Chapter 685. The man was tall, he had long eyebrows, and a strand of silver hair flowed down from his sideburns to his chest, giving off a kind of unrestrained feeling. Coupled with that ordinary folding fan that he was holding, he looked just like an elegant scholar from ancient times. Especially that exquisite facial features of his, as well as the curve of his mouth, he was simply a lady killer. Just like how many women at the scene were dazzled, this man is so charming, his temperament is so ethereal, I really want to be hugged and caressed by this kind of man. Swish, the man opened the folding fan in his hand, and a gust of wind immediately spread out. The barrier that humans were so proud of instantly shattered like glass, it was simply unable to withstand a single blow. Yihua felt that this man was indeed handsome, his hairstyle was pretty good, especially that strand of silver hair that flowed down, it was very charming. It seems like he is even more pretentious than me. Yihua secretly took a look at his two wives, only to see that their gazes were fixated on the man at the scene. This made Yihua feel very unhappy. You two are actually so shallow, to actually be captivated by this kind of man. In the past, you two would often say on the bed that I am the most handsome man in the world, but now, you two are actually looking at someone else, sweet words on the bed don't even count. What are you looking at? Even your saliva is about to flow out. Yihua shouted out. Qingye and Donghuang Baiji didn't act like what Yihua said, they were just sizing up the enemy. Just because they were a bit serious, they were thought to be infatuated. Seeing that their husband was a bit jealous, Qingye and Donghuang Baiji didn't say anything. You are the only one allowed to look at beauties, but your wife is not allowed to look at handsome men. What an overbearing man. This man seems to be very strong. Qingye felt that the aura that the man was emitting out was the strongest aura that she had ever seen. Donghuang Baiji also had the same feeling. Yihua snorted in disdain, is he stronger than me? Yihua, didn't you say that you don't know? Qingye asked curiously. Yihua was actually speechless. If I said that I am stronger than him, why would I be worried? Don't you know how hard it is to live a happy life? Donghuang Baiji consoled Yihua in a low voice, Yihua, it doesn't matter, even if he is a bit weak, our hearts will not change. After all, we have a child already. Yihua, why do I feel like I have lifted up a rock and smashed my own foot again? Why do I always do such foolish things? Donghuang Li consoled her father, Daddy, failure is the mother of success. You have to train hard like Ali, only then will you be able to become stronger. And, sister is right. Dad, you have to work hard. Otherwise, Yan, will catch up. Yi Yan also cheered his father on. Yihua felt that his head was about to explode. I, the Supreme Overlord, am merely creating a type of oppressive atmosphere, and you all actually think that I am incapable of doing so. Forget it, now that the car had started, how could it overturn halfway? Looking at the disappointed look on her husband's face, Qingye and Donghuang Baiji were very worried. For a man who has such a strong ego to suddenly discover that there is another kind of strength in him, how is he going to be able to accept this? Everyone turned to look at the arena again. The man waved the folding fan in his hand and slowly rose into the sky. His gaze was sizing up his surroundings, and this unfamiliar world. I am Luo Ho. Nan Wu Qi, one of the 5 banners, I am very happy to see the light of day for the first time today. When the banner master returns, I will definitely unify the world. Right after Luo Ho finished speaking, his figure disappeared. Although it was just a short sentence, the information that was revealed was simply too much. Everyone was extremely shocked. This is completely a blatant threat. The witch incident had just ended, and now, a Nan Wu Qi has appeared. It seems to be even more terrifying than the witch. What is going on with this world? Qingya mumbled, Nan Wu Qi. Luo Ho, one of the 5 banners, the banner master has returned, the world is really going to change. Dong Huang Baiji said solemnly. This is not just one person. This is just one of the 5 banners, and there is still a banner master behind him. If just one banner master is already so powerful, then what kind of existences are the other 4? And what kind of strength does that banner master have? With an irritated expression on his face, Yi Hua lit up another stick of cigarette. This is very troublesome. Yi Hua, the opponents this time are different from the ones in the past. Are you able to find out where they came from? Dong Huang Baiji asked curiously. She definitely hoped that her husband would be able to grasp the movements of the opponents. After all, only by knowing oneself and knowing the enemy can one emerge victorious in every battle. Yi Hua has never heard of Nan Wu Qi before. If this is the case, then there can only be 2 possibilities. Either this Nan Wu Qi appeared earlier than me, or this Nan Wu Qi came from another region. However, in the entire Milky Way galaxy, Blue Blaze planet represents the progress of civilization, while Blue Luo continent represents strength. If there really is such a powerful force in the galaxy, it is impossible for me to not know about it. The possibility of it coming from another region is not high. This should be a question left behind by history, and this person appeared earlier than me. I can go and ask Zishan about this matter. I heard that Zishan has done some research on the history of the gods. Seems like I will have to attend another meeting soon. The opponents this time are indeed very powerful. I didn't lie to Dong Huang Baiji and Qingya about this. However, it is precisely because of this that the opponents are interesting. If not, if the opponents were to fall every single time, what fun would that be? I, the Supreme Overlord, need a powerful opponent, no matter if it is a brain or a body. I don't know for the time being. Let's go back first and discuss the countermeasures. Yi Hua said gravely. I still have to investigate the information of the opponents clearly. I cannot underestimate them. Qingya and Dong Huang Baiji nodded their heads, and the family immediately left the scene and returned to Voidless Realm. After coaxing the 2 children to go out and play, Yi Hua first held a family meeting, and this time, he even called his sister-in-law over for the meeting. After all, his sister-in-law can also be counted as my woman. I have already done everything that I should do, and the only thing that I am lacking is the last thing that I need to do. Furthermore, I have always wanted to accept my sister-in-law as my wife. Yi Hua and his 2 wives sat on the chair and waited for Qing Yutong to come over. Not long after, Qing Yutong's ghost cry could be heard, "Brother-in-law, this is bad, something big has happened, should we move?" Yi Hua, Qingya, Dong Huang Baiji, from the looks of it, even Qing Yutong knew that the problem wasn't simple. Yutong, how many times have I said it, don't make such a big fuss over nothing, you are a virtuous lady. Qingya lectured. If you act so carelessly, how is it possible for you to find a husband? Qing Yutong pouted her mouth, indicating that my man is currently sitting there. I have already made up my mind that I shouldn't act so carelessly in this lifetime. I got it, did you guys know? Today, 5 strange things happened all over the world. Divine dragon pulling coffin, isn't it awesome? I even have a video here. Qing Yutong said while holding onto the tablet that was in her hand. Dong Huang Baiji asked gravely, 5 strange things. Chapter 686. That's right, big sister Baiji, don't you know? Qing Yutong asked back. Dong Huang Baiji said gravely, but we only met each other. Qing Yutong shook her head, you guys, although the world is different now, it is still the internet era after all. You guys are really too outdated. Yi Hua said faintly, play it out. Alright. Qing Yutong played the video out, and there was even a commentary. This one appeared in High Ocean City's Times Park. The video at the scene should have been taken by a kind-hearted person. Right now, everyone was having fun, and suddenly, a dragon roar sounded out. Not long later, the same situation appeared, and a black coffin also fell down. Everyone was watching curiously and were very vigilant, so there were no casualties. Yi Hua was just curious if there was a painting inside the coffin. As the lid of the coffin was opened, a very strange thing appeared. It kind of looks like a jar, the kind of big jar used to store pickles. As the jar fell onto the ground, it instantly broke into pieces, and a pool of water flowed all over the ground. A strange thing happened. That pool of water seemed to have a life of its own. It actually gradually gathered together, then formed into a human figure. That curvaceous and sexy figure could be clearly seen. In the next second, Yi Hua's expression became a bit stupefied. What an evil mosaic. Motherf ******. Do you know what is the evilest thing in this world? That is mosaic. I haven't trained to the point where I have no code in my heart yet. This woman was indeed a bit beautiful. There was no need to talk about her fair skin. Her entire body was made of water. She was a woman with a lot of water. Her exquisite facial features made people restless. Her gaze carried gentleness. She did not look like that kind of evil person. However, the woman said slowly, I am Yu Hua, one of the 5 banners of Nanwuqi. It is my honor to appear here. I look forward to meeting you guys next time. After finished speaking, Yu Hua smiled sweetly, then disappeared. If there was no mosaic, Yi Hua would give full marks, but with that evil mosaic, Yi Hua didn't want to give any marks. His mood was already bad. Afterward, Qing Yutong played the second video and said, Brother-in-law, this happened in Nanyang City. The scene seemed to be in an internet cafe. The person who filmed the video should be surfing the internet. There was a big hole in the roof, the black coffin crushed a lot of computers, and the boss was still scolding over there. Who the fuck threw the coffin everywhere? Yi Hua only wanted to know what was inside. As the coffin was opened, Yi Hua and his wives stared at the screen. After waiting for a long time, no one came out. However, he didn't see the person, but he could hear the voice. I'm White Bones, one of the 5 banners of the nameless banner. Get ready to welcome the banner master back. Then there was silence. Qinya wrinkled her brows and asked doubtfully, Is this a human? Big sister, this should be an invisible one. Qing Yutong rolled her eyes at her big sister. You don't even know about this, aren't you too backward? However, Qinya was very confused. Even if Qinya was invisible, Qinya would still be able to find a flaw in Qinya's disguise. However, this man that Qinya saw just now didn't have any flaw at all. This invisibility is different from ordinary invisibility. It should be a type of alien race. Yi Hua said gravely. Wei Chang and the others are the same as well, they all possess unique physiques. Seems like this invisible man is the same as well. He is completely in the air, and as long as there is air, he seems to be undying. It was indeed very powerful. I'm looking forward to that flag master more and more. Dong Huang Baiji's complexion was a bit bad, and she was very worried about what would happen next. Qing Yutong continued to play. This incident happened in Long-An City. Yi Hua said indifferently, this one jumped, we have already seen it before. Oh, alright then. Qing Yutong changed to another one and smiled. This incident happened in the northeast. A ski resort could be seen appearing on the screen, and the situation was the same as the others. First, a dragon roar, then a coffin that descended from the sky, but the coffin was rather heavy, and it directly sank into the snow. This made Yi Hua rather speechless. This guardian beast is really not attentive at all. It's fine if it threw these scourges here, but it is still so irresponsible. It is just like throwing rubbish everywhere. Yi Hua and his 2 wives watched the video just like that. 1 minute, 5 minutes, 10 minutes, is it going to come out or not? Yi Hua couldn't help but shout out. Qing Yutong laughed, Aya, I forgot to speed up, it only reached the climax at the 15th minute. Hurry up. Yi Hua said gloomily, his eyes were already sore from staring at the video. As Qing Yutong fast-forwarded the video, she finally saw the main topic, and her hair was about to fall off from waiting. Finally, there was some movement from within the snow pit, and a big hand appeared in the video. Yi Hua's brows slightly wrinkled. It's a man, boring, and it's a tall and sturdy man. it's even more boring. Next. Yihua couldn't help but say. I simply can't bear to watch this anymore, it's too ugly, it's so ugly that it affects my mood. Looking at Qingye and Donghuang Baiji's expressions, it's really so ugly that it can shake the world. This is not discrimination, that face is really twisted together, and it looks just like a monster. And it even has 4 limbs, and that buck teeth, my god, you don't even need to fight like this, and you can directly disgust your opponent to death. Qing Yutong smiled, brother-in-law, wait a bit, there will be a surprise. Yihua endured the pain in his heart and continued to watch the video. I still believe in Qing Yutong. The man in the video could be seen speaking. 1 minute later. Yes, 1 minute later. Sung, 1 minute later. Empty, 1 minute later. Red, Qing Yutong was already laughing to death at the side, while Qingye and Donghuang Baiji's expression stiffened. A drop of sweat had even appeared on Yihua's forehead. I have never been this anxious before. I just wanted to hear what he said, and in the end, he said 5 words for 5 minutes. My god, I, the Supreme Overlord, do not want to have any contact with him, he can simply torture me to death. Qing Yutong continued to the next video. Brother-in-law, this happened in Zijin City. Looking at the video, the location should be at the garbage dump, and the person who took the video should be a worker. It was still a dragon's roar, then with a clang, the coffin fell down. After waiting for a minute, the coffin lid opened, and a person could be seen walking out from the coffin. Qingye and Donghuang Baiji's mouth twitched, seemingly a bit afraid. Even Qing Yutong, who had seen it once, got close to her big sister. This is the fear that comes from a girl's heart. Yihua had never seen such a situation before. This is basically not a human, this is a scarecrow, and its body is covered with yellow grass. The main point is that the facial features on its face are all real. Chapter 687. Nai. Quang. Sha, Nanwu. Flag. 5 flags. 1. The corner of Yihua's mouth twitched. Stuttering. 1 slow, 1 stuttering, how can there be such weirdos, this group of people is truly a bit special. Quang Sha, who was in the form of a scarecrow, swayed as he walked, and the video could be seen to be trembling intensely. However, nothing happened, and Quang Sha disappeared from the video. Qing Yutong turned off the video and said gravely, brother-in-law, big sister Baiji, this group of people is different from before. Yihua did not deny it, and Qingye and Donghuang Baiji nodded their heads. This group of people did not do anything bad when they descended, and only that Luo Ho killed 2 people. To be more precise, it was not Luo Ho who killed the 2 people, rather, the 2 people were absorbed by the coffin. Just what are they doing here? Qingye asked puzzledly. Yihua said faintly, Qingye, it's not what they are doing here, it's what they want to do. Killing people is not what they want to do. Donghuang Baiji mumbled. Brother-in-law, we are here to find out their origins, only then will we be able to deal with the problem. Qing Yutong suggested. What sister-in-law said was right, this group of people was very strong, and if there was to be a division of strength, then these 5 people's strength had reached superior supreme. Such a group of strong people was even sealed, presumably, the person who sealed them must be even stronger. However, why didn't they directly kill them, or could it be that they are basically unkillable? I'm going out for a while. Yihua said faintly. Zishan came from the god's realm, I can ask her if she knows about it. Yihua, we will go with you. Qingye stood up and said. My husband never brings me to a meeting, I am a little depressed, as if he doesn't trust his wife. Donghuang Baiji also looked like she wanted to go. Yihua remained silent for a moment, then said, come. Hearing that her husband agreed, the 2 wives smiled. Qing Yutong was also very happy, brother-in-law did not treat me as an outsider. The 4 of them directly arrived at Leisure Bar. Blood Demon was currently cleaning the bar, and when he suddenly saw His Honor and his wives, he hurriedly bowed down and shouted, "Subordinate pays his respect to His Honor and your wives." Qing Yutong, who was at the side, was overjoyed. The Blood Demon Elder knows how to speak, and he even counted me as one of the Blood Demon Elder's wives. Yihua nodded his head, then picked up his phone and sent a message in the WeChat group. Meeting. The same old place. For such a serious matter, the subordinates still treated it seriously. Jokes were jokes, and business was business. 1 minute later, all of the subordinates had arrived and were standing respectfully. Even Brett had appeared while carrying absolute heaven. Subordinates, pay respect to your honor, pay respect to your honors, madams. The subordinates kneeled on the ground to express their respect and admiration. Yihua said faintly, "All of you, get up." "Thank you, your honor." Yihua shouted out, "Yutong, go and turn on the television." "Yes, brother-in-law." Qing Yutong picked up the remote control and turned on the TV. Right now, every TV station was broadcasting the 5 strange incidents, causing everyone to be panic-stricken. Just this afternoon, there were 5 supernatural incidents across the country. 5 coffins were thrown down by the divine dragon, and 5 strange people appeared. Their strength is unknown, and they call themselves as the South Waveless Flag. Up till now, the Flag Master has yet to appear, and 2 people have already died. I don't know if their appearance is a blessing or a disaster. I hope that Voidless Realm can give everyone an explanation. I will continue to follow up and report to everyone. The subordinates looked at the television silently. In actuality, with how big this matter was, everyone already knew about it. However, Yihua still wanted to let everyone take a look at the television. Seems like everyone is hoping that Voidless Realm will send out a message or capture those people. After all, those people are outsiders, and I don't know what their goal is. After turning off the television, Yihua sat on the high chair, while his 2 wives stood obediently at the side. Qing Yutong was the same as well. However, everyone discovered that in the past, Qing Yutong was always standing with the subordinates, and today, Qing Yutong was standing behind His Honor. Doesn't this mean that His Honor has already married his sister-in-law? Wow, His Honor is so daring, isn't he afraid of being scolded by his wife? At such a serious time, the subordinates were indeed thinking about His Honor's safety. As expected of loyal subordinates. Qing Ye and the others didn't interrupt. As the wives of the Supreme Overlord, they only need to listen to His Honor's words. I mustn't let my husband lose face in front of my subordinates. I will teach him a lesson when we go back. Yihua didn't know what his subordinates were thinking about, and he asked, "Everyone should know about today's matter. Speak, what suggestions do you have?" Dou Fushi, who was among the subordinates, immediately took a step back. From the previous lesson, when His Honor is asking a question, don't ever interrupt. Li Han, who was at the side, looked at her husband's actions confusedly. This is the time to show off. Why is he taking a step back? Thus, Your Honor, little Daodu has a suggestion. Li Han shouted out. Dou Fushi's entire body stiffened as he looked at little Daodu in disbelief. Is there anyone who would scam me like this? The subordinates all had an expression of taking joy in Dou Fushi's misfortune. Yihua looked towards Dou Fushi, who was at the back, and asked faintly, "What suggestion?" Dou Fushi even had the heart to die. Little Daodu is good in everything, obedient, but, forget it, right now, saving myself is more important. Your Honor, subordinate thinks that we should wait and see. Dou Fushi hurriedly said. I feel that this suggestion is reasonable, and there shouldn't be any problems with it. In actuality, Yihua also wanted to wait and see what exactly Dou Fushi was planning to do. Brett, what do you think? Yihua asked Brett. Brett was carrying on to Zhu Tian, who was in despair. From Zhu Tian's expression, it could be seen that Zhu Tian had already been tamed by the 3 women and was no longer resisting. Brett's gaze turned cold as he said respectfully, reporting to Your Honor, subordinate thinks that we can test Zhu Tian out. Yihua also felt that this suggestion was fine, but wasn't it a bit too rash to test Zhu Tian out? After all, it wasn't easy for us to meet a powerful opponent. Yihua nodded his head, and Brett respectfully retreated. South Wuqi, do any of you know about it? Yihua asked faintly. Zishan, who was in the group, wrinkled her brows. From her expression, she seemed to know about it, but she wasn't sure. Zishan, you were from God's realm in the past, why don't you say something? Yihua asked gravely. Your Honor, little Daodu was from God's realm in the past as well. Dou Fushi immediately raised his hand and shouted out. Since little Daodu is trying to scam me, then I should return the favor. Li Hun glared at little Daodu sweetly. Stingy fellow, to even want to scam your own wife. This made Yihua a bit surprised. Is Li Hun also from God's realm? I don't know about it. Chapter 688. Li Hun replied respectfully, Your Honor, subordinate has never heard of a power called South Wuqi. When Yihua heard Li Hun's words, he was slightly disappointed. When Li Hun appeared, his overall strength was stronger than Zishan's. From this, it could be seen that Li Hun had lived longer than Zishan. Zishan, do you know? Yihua asked gravely. Zishan said in a low voice, reporting to Your Honor, subordinate is also not sure if it is true or not. Oh. Tell me about your knowledge. Yes. Zishan took a deep breath, then said respectfully, I used to like reading ancient books. One day, I happened to be reading some books in the king's study room, and I found a parchment paper. The words Nan Wuqi were mentioned in it. Yi Hong's expression, who was at the side, stiffened. My wife's ex-boyfriend. Not boyfriend, but husband. In actuality, Zishan also cared about her husband's feelings, which was why she was hesitating just now. However, since His Honor asked her about it, could it be that she should lie to him? Continue. Yihua's interest was piqued, and even the three women behind him were curious. Of course, his subordinates were also present. After all, a powerful opponent had finally appeared, so they had to treat him seriously. Zishan said in a low voice, because that parchment was damaged, the information on it is not very complete. This Nan Wuqi is a person from the Great Desolate Era. He is a group of 6 people, the Banner Master and the 5th Banner Master. They like to challenge strong opponents, and they don't care about the weak. Yihua felt that these 6 people's way of thinking was a bit similar to his. Challenging the impossible, and in the end, being besieged by a group of powerful people, they managed to break the seal, while Yihua had reincarnated. Not only that, they were people from the prehistoric era. Interesting. I heard that the people from the prehistoric era were all annihilated in a great battle. They should have been sealed, and thus escaped the calamity. Sure enough, the opponent this time is very strong. I am a bit excited now. Moreover, they like to challenge the strong. There was no need to look for them at all. They would naturally come knocking on their door. However, Yihua was thinking about a very important matter. If my subordinate were to fight with those 5 people, who would win and who would lose? Like the Green and Red brothers, they had only strengthened their strength, they didn't know any moves, and they didn't have any combat experience, so they probably wouldn't be a match for him. This time, things are really a bit tricky. I, the Supreme Overlord, have to think about it properly. Everyone is on standby 24/7. Wait for my command. Yihua shouted out. Yes. All the subordinates shouted in unison. Disperse. After his subordinates left, Yihua brought his wife and sister-in-law back to Voidless Realm. Yihua, should we inform the outside world about this? Donghuang Baiji asked curiously. There's no need for that. Do I, the Supreme Overlord, need to explain everything to others? What a joke. Donghuang Baiji didn't ask anything else. Right now, everything was up to her husband. I'm a bit hungry. Yihua said. Qingya laughed tenderly, and, I will go and cook for you. Yihua nodded his head, then sat in the garden and pondered. These 5 people are much stronger than what I imagined them to be. Also, just what kind of trash is that flag master? For him to be able to become their leader, he should be even more valiant. The whole thing was getting interesting. I wish Atlas was still here. What a pity. On the other hand, the 5 banners of Nameless Banner had already gathered together. At first glance, there were only 4 of them. There was only one that was not visible. The 5 of them sat in a small forest, and a fire was burning in the middle of the forest, which was emitting out sizzling sounds. Luo Ho waved his folding fan and said with a slight smile on his face, "The air outside sure is good." Yes, everyone waited for a minute. Ah. Sun Konghong said slowly. The other 4 people didn't interrupt Sun Konghong. They were all used to Sun Konghong's way of speaking, and this was also a type of respect. Yu Hua was the only female in the group, and right now, she was also wearing her clothes. Under the illumination of the fire, her beautiful face looked exceptionally gentle and beautiful, especially the smile that was hanging on the corner of her mouth. It looked very comfortable. "How long have we been sealed for?" These were the words that came from the white bones, and it seemed as if it came from the air. It was extremely strange. Because, it should have been, a very, long, time. Scarecrow Wild Sand said intermittently, and its tone seemed to be a bit stupid. However, one mustn't look down on it. Although it stuttered, Wild Sand's strength could be ranked in the top. Although Sun Konghong spoke slowly, his strength was the strongest out of the 5 people, while Scarecrow Wild Sand was ranked 2nd, Yu Hua who was made of water was ranked 3rd, Luo Ho who was made of air was ranked 4th, and White Bones who was made of air was ranked 5th. Although White Bones was ranked 5th, its strength was enough to make one speechless. It should be about time. Yu Hua laughed lightly. The other 4 people paused for a moment. It is time to summon the flag master out. A gale blew over and extinguished the fire. The only light in the fire disappeared, and the surroundings sunk into darkness. The 5 people stood at the 5 corners and formed a formation. "Attract the power of the sky." Yu Hua shouted out. "Attract the light of the earth." White Bones shouted out gravely. "Attract the soul of the underground." Luo Ho shouted out gravely. "Woo!" Sun Konghong shouted out. Because he was speaking, he only managed to say one word. "Lord. Holy light. Shine. Shine. On. Earth." The stuttering Wild Sand shouted out while stuttering. In the pitch-black sky, a black hole suddenly appeared. The 5 people raised their heads and looked towards the black hole, and their eyes revealed out expectations. In actuality, the one who sealed the flag master was none other than the 5 of them. This was not a betrayal, it was an absolutely safe way to deal with the flag master. What they were waiting for was precisely this day. A figure could be seen appearing from within the black hole. She seemed to have fallen into a deep sleep as she slowly descended. Along with the descent of the figure's appearance was revealed. It was a girl, and couldn't be counted as a woman. From her figure, it could be seen that the girl's height was estimated to be less than 160 centimeters, and her body seemed to have yet to develop properly. Compared to Yu Hua, the girl was like a poached egg. Although the little girl's figure wasn't up to standard, her face indeed possessed an astonishing beauty. Although it couldn't shock you at first glance, as long as you look at her more and more, you would feel that she was more and more beautiful. The little girl lightly laid on the grass, and the 5 people respectfully stood at the side, waiting for the flag master to wake up. After a long while, the little girl's eyebrows slightly trembled. The 5 people respectfully knelt down and shouted out loudly, "Welcome back, Flag Master." The little girl suddenly opened her beautiful eyes. Those were a pair of ice-like eyes, causing people to exclaim endlessly in admiration. There are still such eyes in this world, they are really beautiful, coupled with that unique face of hers, bonus points. Chapter 689. Maybe it was because they hadn't talked for a long time, the little girl seemed a little uncomfortable. Yu Hua's eyes were a little red. Flag Master, we broke the seal and summoned you. The little girl went into a daze for a very long time, her gaze turned from perplexed to liveliness, and the smile on her face became deeper and deeper. Yu Hua, the little girl cried out in surprise and threw herself into Yu Hua's arms at a strange speed, as if she loved her very much. Yu Hua gently stroked the little girl. Flag Master, we are finally together again. The little girl nodded and looked at the scarecrow, Wild Sand, who was at the side. She also pounced on him. Big idiot, I missed you so much. Huang Sha's strange face actually revealed a smile, which was even more horrifying. After leaving Huang Sha's embrace, the little girl said to the air, White Bones, I missed you very much. White Bones also wants to be the Flag Master, said the voice in the air. The little girl laughed happily and pounced towards Luo Ho. Hee hee, everyone is finally out. Luo Ho smiled and patted the Flag Master's shoulder. The little girl immediately pounced at Blue Sky Hong. It's so good to have you guys here. I can play again. Flag Master, you can't always think about playing around, Yu Hua said respectfully. This made the little girl a little depressed. Why can't I play? I just want to play. It seemed that this Flag Master hadn't grown up yet. Her personality was even more immature than Yi Zizi's, only knowing how to play. 5 Flags naturally knew Flag Master's personality. Seeing that Flag Master was no different from before, the 5 of them were very happy. Flag Leader, you have to listen to us. Otherwise, we will ignore you. Yu Hua smiled gently like a mother. Hearing such a threat, the little girl immediately pouted her little mouth, looking very unhappy, the kind that couldn't be coaxed. I'm hungry. The little girl pouted her little mouth and said. Luo Ho chuckled, Flag Master, let's go home and cook. Okay. I want Big Idiot to cook. The little girl clapped her hands excitedly and even jumped up and down. What kind of demeanor did she have? Huang Sha nodded with a strange smile. Luo Ho took out something from his cosmos sack and threw it forward. Boom boom boom. An earth-shaking explosion suddenly sounded, and resplendent white smoke appeared. When the white smoke dissipated, an endless staircase appeared before the 6 of them. Above the staircase was a palace. A huge signboard was erected on top of the stairs. Nan Wu Chi. The little girl leaped onto Tsang Kong Hung's shoulder, and the 6 of them walked up the stairs. The 6 of them moved extremely quickly, reaching the top of the stairs in less than a breath's time. From here, they could see the galaxy directly, and it was a beautiful sight. The little girl said in a daze, So beautiful, I really like this place. Huang Sha respectfully said, Flag Master, I'll go cook first. Big Idiot, hurry up. I'm very hungry, said the little girl as she rubbed her belly. Yes, Flag Master. Luo Ho, go and pull out the table. We'll sit here and eat. The little girl continued to give orders. Yes. Flag Master. The eyes of the little girl who was sitting on Tsang Kong Hung's shoulder became deep. She mumbled, I wonder, if there are any more powerful opponents. Flag Master, there will be one, Yu Hua said softly. That's good, hug, the little girl stretched out her hands towards Yu Hua. Yu Hua smiled sweetly, then hugged onto the Flag Master. The little girl's name was Kai Yun. Right now, in Voidless Realm, Qingye had already finished cooking, and the whole family was currently enjoying a sumptuous dinner. Just that, Qingye and Donghuang Baiji didn't seem to be that happy. Wasn't it all because of the sudden appearance of Nan Wuqi? Nan Wuqi was a terrifying existence from the prehistoric era. For him to suddenly appear in this world was like a bug. Furthermore, the current situation was even more serious. This kind of anomaly had already spread to every corner of the world. Everyone in the world knew that the anomaly of a divine dragon pulling a coffin had appeared in China. One after another, everyone expressed their curiosity and wanted to get to the bottom of it. However, most of them were just watching from the sidelines. In any case, this matter doesn't concern us, so why should we get involved in it? Right now, all of the pressure was on Voidless Realm. If Qing Tiandi didn't act impulsively today, this would have been the best opportunity for him. Unfortunately, Qing Tiandi chose to fight against Yihua alone. Mom, why are you only eating? Yen, will help you get some food. Yi Yen stood on the stool and helped his mother get some food. Qingye came back to her senses and said with a gentle smile, Yen, is so obedient. Mom, don't worry, Dad will be able to handle it. Yi Yen worshipped his father brainlessly. No matter how strong the enemy was, his father would always be able to defeat the enemy. Qingye looked towards her husband and discovered that Yihua had a gloomy look on his face. This was a situation that had never happened before. Yihua knew that Qingye was looking at him, so he didn't say anything and continued eating his meal silently. It was as if he couldn't win. Dong Huang Baiji placed down the bowl in her hand. After thinking for a bit, she decided not to say anything and continued eating her meal. Looking at her big sister and the Empress's worried look, Qing Yutong felt that it was funny. It has already been so long, and the two of you still don't understand brother-in-law? He is clearly just pretending, he just wants the two of you to worry a bit. The two of you are really idiots, or rather, the IQ of a pregnant woman is 0. After eating, Qingye and Donghuang Baiji went to rest early, and they even dragged Yihua to sleep early. Yihua knew that the two of them had something to talk about. Under the resentful gaze of the two children, Yihua accompanied his wife to sleep. The three of them laid on the spacious bed, and the atmosphere was a bit stifling. Donghuang Baiji took the lead and asked, Yihua, tell me the truth, can you do it or not? That's right, we are always worried about you. Qingye followed up and said. If her husband wasn't confident, they were prepared to think of another way. Yihua let out a breath, then said faintly, what? You two became so terrified after meeting a strong opponent, you two truly disappoint me. Qingye and Donghuang Baiji just didn't want Yihua to take any risks. After all, Yihua was the pillar of the family, and the father of 4 children. If something were to happen to Yihua, how were they going to continue living? Yihua. Don't make fun of us, we are really worried about you. Qingye had a depressed look on her face. It has been a long time since she felt like this. Yihua patted on the shoulders of his 2 wives, can the 2 of you have more confidence in me? It seems like I am going to lose right now. Smile for us to see then. Donghuang Baiji said seriously. Ever since the appearance of Nanwiki, her husband had never smiled, and his face had always been tense. Yihua's confidence was their confidence, and her husband was the sky in their hearts. Right now, even the sky was dispirited, how could they be happy? Chapter 690. However, Qingye and Donghuang Baiji didn't believe their husband at all, and thought that he was comforting them. This time, Yihua was at his wit's end. If I had known earlier, I wouldn't have scared them. Seems like I shot myself in the foot again, I still have to coax them. Alright, talk less, kiss more. After finished speaking, Yihua hugged the Empress into his embrace and tasted her soft lips. After tasting the Empress, Yihua began tasting Qingye's cherry lips. It has been a long time since I kissed my wives, and I'm feeling a bit excited. Qingye felt her husband's action and said bashfully, Yihua, what are you doing? Shoo, I'm making you two feel comfortable. Qingye couldn't help but moan, and a feeling of satisfaction emerged from the bottom of her heart. Donghuang Baiji looked at the 2 people beside her blankly. They actually did it in front of me. Yihua hugged the Empress into his embrace and kissed her lightly. Don't think about those things, it's fine as long as we are happy. Yihua Donghuang Baiji was extremely bashful. I actually let a wolf into my house tonight. When that feeling of satisfaction appeared, some of the vexing things immediately disappeared. Yihua was also quite satisfied. I finally completed one of my life's biggest goals. The day that I have been looking forward to has finally arrived. This is all thanks to Nan Wuqi, you two really are my lucky stars. After comforting both of his wives, Yi Hua was also satisfied. I finally became a real man for once, and I feel pretty good. While hugging onto his two wives who were in deep sleep, Yi Hua silently thought of Nan Wuqi. Interesting, this time around, I won't be disappointed. Early morning, Yi Hua slowly opened his eyes, and the beautiful women beside him were no longer there. The Empress is definitely dealing with Voidless Realms matters. Although Voidless Realm isn't big, there are still a lot of matters waiting for Donghuang Baiji's orders every day. Qingye is definitely preparing breakfast for everyone. You woke up. Quickly come out and eat breakfast. Qingye walked over with a gentle smile, and there was even a blush on her face, making her look extremely beautiful. Yi Hua hooked his finger at Qingye, looking very flirtatious. Qingye rolled her eyes at her husband, then walked over leisurely. Yi Hua held on to Qingye's small hand, then slightly exerted force and pulled Qingye into his embrace, then kissed her. Qingye, why are you so charming? Yi Hua laughed lightly. Qingye said petulantly, I let you have your way, you bastard. Ha! Yi Hua laughed out loud. I like Qingye's coquettish look the most. You are still laughing? Last night was just an exception, in the future, don't even think about it. Qingye said bashfully, and couldn't help but pinch Yi Hua a bit. What a man who gets carried away. Yi Hua's expression sank, it's not up to you all to decide. Alright, you're the boss. Can't you get up? No. After speaking, Yi Hua pressed down onto Qingye and carefully tasted his wife's cherry lips. Aya father, mother, you all, Donghuang Li and Yi Yan stood at the doorway and covered their eyes with their hands. Seeing that their parents still haven't come out, they ran into the doorway and shouted at their parents, and immediately after, they saw their parents kissing on the bed. Hearing the child's voice, Qingye hurriedly pushed away her husband who was infatuated with her, then fiercely glared at her gluttonous husband and said lightly, it's all your fault, being seen by the children. Yi Hua smiled embarrassedly and didn't take it to heart. After putting on his clothes, Yi Hua walked out of the doorway and coincidentally saw the Empress returning. When Donghuang Baiji saw her husband, she immediately recalled what happened last night, and her beautiful face immediately became bright red. These two women, no matter how many times I have done it, they are always so shy, as if it was their first time. How is the situation today? Yi Hua asked faintly while drinking the century egg and lean meat porridge. Donghuang Baiji said gravely, Nan Wuqi has already set up their headquarters, and it is located in the south. So fast. Yi Hua was a bit surprised. I thought that they were going to do something to intimidate us first. I didn't expect that their actions would be so small. Brother-in-law, there is the latest video here. Qing Yutong who was at the side played the video. Everyone saw the long flight of stairs and the palace in the sky. So imposing. As expected of a person from the prehistoric era, such an imposing manner is enough to intimidate a lot of people. Qing Yutong said confusedly, this video was taken from the sky, which means that there are helicopters hovering around the surroundings. However, Nan Wuqi didn't pay any attention to the helicopters. This is very strange. Qing Yutong's words obtained the agreement of Qingye and Donghuang Baiji. For such a powerful person to directly ignore this point, this is very unusual. Yi Hua said faintly, because it is disdainful, it didn't pay any attention to the helicopters. This is a very simple logic. In actuality, the more Nan Wuqi didn't make a move, the more confused Yi Hua was, because this didn't make sense. Perhaps it is only the second day, and they don't have a concrete plan yet. That's right. I just have to continue waiting. If the enemy doesn't make a move, I won't make a move. Yi Hua continued speaking, then didn't say anything else. However, 1 month passed, 2 months had passed, 3 months had passed, the popularity of Nan Wuqi seemed to have disappeared in an instant, and everyone had almost forgotten about this matter and returned back to their normal lives. During these 3 months, Yi Hua was very gloomy. Zishan said that day that Nan Wuchi likes to challenge strong opponents, but looking at it now, Nan Wuchi didn't make a move at all. Yi Hua was even a bit impatient. There were a few times when he wanted to send people over to probe Nan Wuchi's intentions, but in the end, he still endured it. I have never taken the initiative before, and this time is no exception. Therefore, during these 3 months, Yi Hua was a bit unhappy. Every day, he would look forward to them causing trouble, but every day, he would be disappointed. I feel that this South Wuchi is a group with brains. Then, I shall play with your brains. I have never been afraid of anyone. However, to Yi Hua, today was a good day. Right now, Yi Hua was anxiously standing outside of Dong Huang Baiji's bedroom, and Dong Huang Baiji's shouts could be heard coming from inside. Dong Huang Li and Yi Yan were holding hands, and they were also very nervous. Daddy, it has already been so long, why hasn't Mommy given birth yet? Dong Huang Li asked worriedly. Ah Li, don't worry, it will be very soon. With a gentle smile on his face, Yi Hua said. Along with the sound of the child crying, Yi Hua let out a sigh of relief. I have finally given birth to the child safely. Back then, when Qingye gave birth to Yan, I, the Supreme Overlord, was also extremely worried. Today is also the same. In the future, I better not give birth to a child. I, the Supreme Overlord, am truly afraid of this kind of feeling. Yi Hua brought along the 2 children and walked inside. Dong Huang Baiji, who was lying on the bed, looked a bit weak, and her complexion was pale. While hugging onto a little fellow, Qingye said with a slight smile, Yi Hua, you're going to have another son. That's true, Ali has another little brother. Dong Huang Li was very happy. Chapter 691. The little fellow was white and tender, he who had just cried just a while ago. His face was currently cold, that's right. This expression of Yi Hua's was extremely similar to Yi Hua's, the Yi Hua with a straight face. Yi Yan looked at his brother's expression and was slightly stunned. Wow, my brother is so cool. That's right, little brother's expression is just like daddy's expression. Dong Huang Li cried out in surprise. It can't be that little brother's personality has been infected by daddy, right? Qingye was also a bit surprised. Dong Huang Baiji's son is truly a bit cold, he is too similar to Yi Hua. However, when Yi Hua took a look at his son, the latter actually looked straight at his father. How audacious. Not bad. As expected of my son, you're full of vigor. Yi Hua said faintly. Soon after, he walked to the side of the bed and lightly caressed Dong Huang Baiji's face. Baiji, it has been hard on you. Feeling the warmth of her husband's hand, Dong Huang Baiji said tenderly, it's not hard, as long as you are happy, it's fine. Rest well, for the next few days, don't bother about Voidless Realm's trivial matters. N. Dong Huang Baiji nodded. Qingye, let me take a look at my son. Dong Huang Baiji sat up and laid on the head of the bed. Qingye handed the child over to Dong Huang Baiji. Looking at her son's expression, Dong Huang Baiji was a bit surprised. This little fellow has just come out, and yet, his aura is already so strong. Especially that gaze, it is too similar to Yi Hua's. This caused Dong Huang Baiji to be a bit worried. She patted on her son's butt, wanting her son to cry. However, who would have thought that her son did not have any reaction at all? Furthermore, with a puzzled look on his face, he seemed to be asking, Mom, why did you hit me? Alright, Dong Huang Baiji had no other choice. Yi Hua, your son is so cool, he looks exactly the same as you. Dong Huang Baiji carefully placed her son onto Yi Hua's hand. Yi Hua looked at the little fellow in his embrace and laughed lightly, sure. He's my 3rd child. His name is God Yi. When the little fellow heard his father's name, a trace of an arc appeared on the corner of his mouth. This name is simply like a miniature version of Yi Hua, it is 2F** king similar. God Yi. The future god of slaughter. An existence that was 100 times more savage than his father. When Dong Huang Baiji heard this name, she said worriedly, Yihua, isn't this name a bit too big? What does it matter? My child is going to be bigger than the heavens. Yihua said in disdain. The little fellow in his arms seemed to understand and nodded, indicating that he liked the name very much. Brother-in-law, quickly let me hug him. Qing Yutong, who was at the side, couldn't wait any longer, and she didn't even have the time to hug him. Yihua sent the child to his sister-in-law. Qing Yutong looked at God Yi, then reached out and hooked God Ye's chin. The little guy seemed to have a look of disdain. This caused Qing Yutong to laugh. Wow, look at the little fellow, he is getting angry just like brother-in-law. Is that so? Quickly, let me take a look. Qing Yi moved closer to Yihua. Qing Yi discovered that what Yihua said was really interesting. Dong Huang Baiji, who was lying on the bed, felt helpless. My daughter's personality is like mine, and my son's personality is completely like Yihua's. To be honest, Yihua's personality was not likable. Arrogant, conceited, bad-tempered, chauvinistic, and also liked to act cool. Basically, all the shortcomings of a man were gathered on him. Dong Huang Baiji didn't want her son to be like this. From the looks of it, I will have to put in more effort to change her son's character. Dong Huang Baiji's idea was good, but the reality was not like that. 1 week later, God Yi learned how to walk just like big brother Yi Yan. 2 weeks later, God Yi had already started practicing swordsmanship. 1 month later, everyone became speechless. The morning in Voidless Realm was very peaceful. Dong Huang Li and Yi Yan woke up very early and prepared to start their daily training. However, in the garden, there was already a small figure that was dripping with sweat, and there was no expression on the small figure's face. God Yi let out a breath, then looked at his big sister and big brother, who looked like they had not woken up yet, then said faintly, "Big sister, big brother, you two are late." Dong Huang Li rolled her eyes. Yi Yan had a gloomy look on his face. This was already not the first time. No matter what God Yi did, he would always be very focused, very serious, and would never joke around, just like a small adult. Little God, I am your big sister, you have to listen to me. That's right, little God, I am your big brother, you have to listen to me too. God Yi said faintly, alright, big sister, big brother, let's start training. Dong Huang Li, Yi Yan, Dong Huang Li and Yi Yan felt helpless towards this little brother of theirs. All he does is train, and it seems like only training can make him happy. Dong Huang Li said softly, Daddy and Mommy still haven't woken up yet, let's go out and play. Alright, big sister, let's go out and play. Yi Yan was the first to raise his hand in agreement. God Yi said faintly, Daddy and Mommy will scold people. It's fine, big sister will help you carry it. Dong Huang Li said while patting on her chest. God Ye's expression was very serious, thank you big sister and big brother, but little God doesn't want to go out and play, you two have fun. Little God, don't be so disappointing, we are just children, there is no need for us to be so hardworking. Yi Yan said. That's right, right now, I am speaking as your biological big sister. Little God, put down the wooden sword in your hand and go out and play with us. Dong Huang Li put on the attitude of a big sister. If you don't go out and play with us, we will break off our friendship. Struggle could be seen within God Ye's eyes. Of course, I know that Dong Huang Li is my biological big sister, but I really don't like to play with you. I feel that playing with you is a waste of time and is meaningless. Big sister, I'm sorry. God Yi said respectfully. Dong Huang Li held onto her forehead, feeling a bit angry. Little brother is too disobedient, and he is even my biological little brother. Yan, let's go, big sister will bring you to eat delicious food. Dong Huang Li pulled Yi Yan and walked outside. Yi Yan still turned his head around and shouted, Little God, are you really not coming? Big brother, take good care of big sister. God Yi revealed out an apologetic gaze. Yi Yan had no other choice. In the past, I thought that when the time comes, we can play together and have fun together, but in the end, I found out that God Yi doesn't have any fun at all. Looking at his big sister and big brother leaving, God Yu raised the wooden sword in his hand, and with a firm gaze, he began swinging the wooden sword. Dong Huang Baiji, who was standing not too far away, saw everything that happened just now. The thing that I am worried about the most still happened in the end. My son is not sociable. What should I do? Dong Huangli pulled Yi Yan and walked on the road of Voidless Realm. Big sister, don't be too angry, little God has such a personality, even the mothers can't do anything about it. Yi Yan consoled Dong Huangli in a low voice. Dong Huangli pouted her mouth. Alright, big sister isn't angry, I just feel that little God is working too hard, training every day. It's fine, Yan, is accompanying big sister. Chapter 692. On the big bed in Yihua's bedroom, Qingye leaned on Yihua's arm and muttered, Baiji went to see our son again early in the morning. Yihua slowly opened his eyes, and with his right hand twirling around Qingye's beautiful hair, he said faintly, I don't know what Baiji is worried about, but I just feel that Shen, is pretty good, and he is very hardworking, and he is worthy of praise. Qingye lightly knocked onto her husband's chest. How can you understand our thoughts as mothers? Then, what do you all think? Yihua asked. Of course, I hope that the child can grow up happily. Look at Shen, He doesn't play with Li Yan, at all. He's a loner. It would be strange if Baiji wasn't worried. My child is going to be born soon, and right now, I am a bit worried. If I were to give birth to a child who has the same personality as Shen, then, Yihua didn't feel that his son was in the wrong, it was the two of them who were overly worried. Alright, it is a good thing for children to have their own personalities. No matter what, they are still siblings. Yihua said lightly, not really taking the matter to heart. Qingye sighed helplessly. Right at this moment, Dong Huang Baiji walked into the room with a depressed heart. She crawled into the blanket and hugged onto her husband tightly. Li and Shen seemed to have gotten into a conflict. Dong Huang Baiji said faintly. Both of them are my children, and I feel rather uncomfortable seeing them like that. What's wrong? Yihua asked curiously. Dong Huang Baiji then told Yihua about what happened just now. Yihua thought that Yihua was just rejecting Yihua on a daily basis. My youngest son sure has a unique personality, and he fits my taste perfectly. Baiji, you don't have to worry too much. Yihua comforted Baiji lightly. It could be seen that the Empress was very depressed this month. Dong Huang Baiji said in a low voice, I'm just afraid that the siblings won't get along with each other. Yihua did not say anything. God Ye's personality is unsociable, and he often trains by himself, and he doesn't play with his big sister and big brother. Yihua was able to understand God Ye's personality, after all, he was also like that in the past. However, as a mother, Dong Huang Baiji was having a headache. Qingye, your due date is coming soon, right? Dong Huang Baiji reminded. Qingye nodded her head, that's right, soon, the lady is coming out. That's right, this time, Qingye was pregnant with a girl, and both of them had a son and a daughter. Yihua said with a smile, all right, since you have already given birth, I can finally have some fun. The two wives glared at Yihua fiercely. The two wives were getting more and more flirtatious. Just when everyone was planning to get up from the bed, Qingye suddenly wrinkled her brows and cried out. Qingye, what's wrong? Dong Huang Baiji asked anxiously. Qingye's face was a bit painful, you really got it right, it's coming out. Yihua, quickly call Yutong over to help. Dong Huang Baiji said hurriedly. Yihua nodded his head, then called Qing Yutong over to help deliver the baby. This time, Yihua was very relieved. After the incident that happened last time, Qingye's side effects had already been eliminated, therefore, that kind of situation wouldn't happen again. Yihua brought along the three children and stood outside the house, waiting anxiously. God Yi stood beside his father. The cold arrogance between the father and son was exactly the same, and there was no extra expression on their faces. On the other hand, Dong Huangli and Yi Yan who were at the side were much more lively, and they matched the personalities of the children. Not long after, the sound of a child crying could be heard in the room. Yi Hua heaved a sigh of relief. Everything went smoothly. Dong Huangli and Yi Yan immediately rushed into the room. Meanwhile, Yi Hua walked into the room unhurriedly, and God Yi respectfully followed beside his father's feet. "Brother-in-law, quickly come and take a look." Qing Yutong carried on to her big sister's daughter and shouted towards Yi Hua. Right now, Yi Hua was a bit worried about Qing Yutong's personality, and he immediately looked towards his daughter who was in Qing Yutong's embrace. The little guy was lying there quietly. What? His expression was exactly the same as God Ye's. "Yutong, let me take a look." Qing Ye also began to worry, especially when she saw her husband's expression just now. She became even more worried. Qing Yutong pursed her lips, then passed the child to her big sister. Qing Ye looked at her daughter's expression. Her daughter's expression was exactly the same as God Ye's at that time. Dong Huang Baiji, who was at the side, saw it as well. Dong Huang Baiji couldn't help but look at her son who was standing at the side. What a headache. Dong Huangli and Yi Yan also rushed to look at their little sister, and when they saw their little sister's expression, they were instantly stupefied. Wasn't that the second God Yi? Dong Huangli patted onto Yi Yan's shoulder. "From the looks of it, in the future, only the two of us will be able to play together." Yi Yan no longer held any hope for his own sister. She would definitely be a small god in the future. It seemed that they would have to be divided into factions in the future. The adults all heard the little fellow's conversation and seemed very helpless. From their personalities, it could be seen that they would have to be divided into two factions in the future. Yi Hua, who was standing at the side, also began to face this problem seriously. "Yi Hua, what is our daughter's name?" Qing Ye, who was carrying her daughter, asked her husband. Yi Hua pondered for a moment, then slowly said, "Yi Lu." Hearing the name that her husband gave her, a smile appeared on the corner of Qing Ye's mouth. She looked at her daughter who was in her embrace and said, "From now on, you will be called Yi Lu." The little fellow did not have any expression on her face, and there was not a single ripple on her face. This caused Qing Ye to become depressed. She looked at God Yi, then looked at Dong Huangli and Yi Yan who were at the side who were depressed. Why is it like this? It should be because Yi Lu is still young, and she will be fine after a few weeks. However, a month passed by. It was another warm morning. Dong Huangli and Yi Yan walked out of their room while rubbing their eyes. Looking at the two little figures in the garden, both of them didn't feel like speaking anymore. God Yi and Yi Lu who were in the garden could be seen looking at each other faintly, and tiny beads of sweat could be seen on their foreheads. "Lu, you are slow," God Yi said lightly. He was currently teaching his little sister. Yi Lu appeared to be very calm. "Brother, being slow has its benefits. Didn't you still lose to me in the end?" "Lu, brother is just going easy on you. There's no need for that," Yi Lu said indifferently. Her chin was slightly raised, appearing very cold and arrogant. "All right. This is my little sister," God Yi shouted out lightly, and a large amount of spiritual energy erupted out from his little body. Yi Lu's gaze became serious, then lightly waved the wooden sword in her hand, blocking her big brother's surprise attack. Cough, cough, cough. Dong Huangli brought her little brother Yi Yan to the side, then let out a heavy cough. God Yi and Yi Lu kept the wooden sword in their hands, then stood side by side obediently and shouted, "Big sister, big brother, good morning." Dong Huangli stood with her hands behind her back, then walked to the middle of the two of them, then heavily patted the two of them. "Good luck, in the future, Yi family will be relying on the two of you." God Yi said gravely, "Big sister, don't worry, little brother swears to defend Yi family's honor with his life." "Big sister, big brother, don't worry, little sister will live and die together with Yi family's honor." Yi Lu appeared to be incomparably serious, and didn't seem to be joking at all. Chapter 693. Yi Yan exhaled softly. Let's go to Mom and Dad's place for breakfast after you're done. Thank you for your concern, big brother, God Yi said lightly. Okay, big brother. Yi Lu nodded and said softly. Dong Huangli and Yi Yan left while holding hands. Dong Huangli and Yi Yan's back view seemed a bit down. Right now, Dong Huangli and Yi Yan are truly divided into two factions. One was the playful faction led by Dong Huangli, while the other was the serious faction led by God Yi. Seeing their elder sister and brother leave, God Yi and Yi Lu distanced themselves from each other. Brother, there are still 10 minutes left, Yi Lu said indifferently. That's enough. God Yi shouted in a childish voice. His small body turned into a phantom and rushed out. Yi Lu also went all out, and the two little fellows were having a great time fighting. On the other hand, Dong Huangli and Yi Yan were having a lot of fun. Right now, the Empress was also helping Qingye make breakfast. After all, the number of people in the family was a bit too much, and adding Qing Yutong into the family, there were 8 people in the family. The little fellow's appetite was not small. Just that, Qingye and Dong Huang Baiji who were making breakfast seemed a bit gloomy. Sai, Shen, and Lu, are truly wholeheartedly focusing on cultivation. Dong Huang Baiji said. It had already been 2 months, and it seemed like Dong Huang Baiji had gotten over it quite a bit. Qingye nodded her head, that's right, it's also good for Lu, to be Shen's companion, if not, Shen will be too lonely. I'm just worried for them after they grow up. Dong Huang Baiji was very worried, she was afraid that her children would turn against each other and become enemies. Baiji, you think too much. Although they don't play together, they have a good relationship. Shen, and Lu, are very respectful to Ali, I hope so. Dong Huang Baiji let out a breath. Carrying the breakfast, the 2 beautiful wives walked to the front hall, and at this time, the 4 children walked in one after another. Dong Huangli and Yi Yan were on one side, while God Yi and Yi Lu were on one side. However, don't look at how God Yi and Yi Lu were on the same side, the 2 of them were actually enemies. Towards this kind of situation, Qingye and Dong Huang Baiji were already used to it. Did you wash your hands? Qingye asked with a smile. Dong Huangli and Yi Yan said happily, yes. God Yi and Yi Lu, on the other hand, extended their palms, indicating that they had already washed. From this point, it could be seen that Dong Huangli and Yi Yan belonged to the category of people who were ruthless and talkative, while God Yi and Yi Lu belonged to the category of people who were ruthless and talkative. These were 2 extremes. Right at this moment, Yi Hua walked out from the room at the side. The 4 children shouted in unison, "Good morning, Daddy." Yi Hua nodded his head and took the lead to sit down. At this moment, only then did Qingye and Dong Huang Baiji sit down, followed by the children. From this point, it could be seen that Yi family was still very neat and tidy, other than one person. Brother-in-law, big sister, wait for me. Qing Yutong ran over energetically. Qingye wrinkled her brows, Yutong, how many times have I said it, be steady. Qing Yutong pouted her mouth. Steady, that's impossible, I won't be able to be steady in my entire life. She even felt resentful that her brother-in-law didn't love her anymore. He had only come twice this month. It was so sad. It seemed like Big Sister and Big Sister Baiji had given him a lot of benefits. Otherwise, brother-in-law wouldn't be like this. Ever since Qingye gave birth to a child, Yi Hua began to let loose of himself. Every day, he would roll in the sheets with his 2 wives. Not to mention how great it was, even Nan Wuqi didn't have time to care about Yi Hua anymore. However, this time, I had prepared contraceptive measures. My marksmanship is truly powerful, I can kill one with one shot. Looking at his 4 children eating peacefully, Yi Hua's mood was also very carefree. When would I have thought that I would have such a day like this? What's the situation with Nan Wuqi right now? Yi Hua asked faintly. He had almost forgotten that there was such a group of people. Dong Huang Baiji shook her head, from the moment they appeared until now, they have not done anything. God Yi suddenly placed down his chopsticks and said seriously, Father, Mother, why don't you leave this matter to Shen her? I want a mission. Yi Lu followed and said. The words of the two little fellows made the adults laugh. They were quite attentive. All right, the two of you are still young, just leave this kind of matter to father and mother. Qingya rubbed onto her daughter's head and said tenderly. To know how to worry at such a young age, when they grow up, they will definitely be very outstanding. Dong Huangli and Yi Yan were a bit gloomy. This little brother and little sister actually came to ask their father for a mission. As the big sister, I still don't have the qualifications. Yi Hua looked at Ali's gloomy expression and said faintly, the two of you should just focus on your cultivation and listen to big sister's words, understand? Towards their father's words, God Yi and Yi Lu would definitely listen to them. All right, father. Father, Lu, understands. Yi Hua nodded his head, then signaled everyone to continue eating and not to think about anything else. At this moment, on the stairs of Nanwiki, there was a Matewan's little brother who was carrying a heavy box on his back. F***K, delivering a Matewan, I almost lost my life. The Matewan's little brother sat paralyzed on the stairs. This was already not the first time that he came to deliver food. If it wasn't for the fact that the delivery fee was very high, he wouldn't have accepted such a mission even if he was beaten to death. The Matewan's little brother rested for a minute, then continued to climb the stairs. After an hour, he finally reached the end of the stairs and shouted out loudly, Your group beauty is here. Right after he finished speaking, the big box automatically opened. The Matewan's little brother wasn't surprised at all as he said, Remember to leave a 5-star rating. Sure. Looking at the food floating in the air and entering the palace, the little brother looked at the stairs again. Climbing up is hard, and going down is even harder. White Bones walked into the palace with the food, and right at this moment, Kai Yun's excited voice rang out from within the palace. Dragon! 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 Hurry up! Kai Yun stood on a chair while holding onto a lollipop in his mouth and shouted out to his 4 subordinates. Yu Hua said gently, Flag Master, our mid-lane's Highland Tower is being stolen by Sword Saint. It's fine, we counterattacked the big dragon. Kai Yun said excitedly. The 4 subordinates were helpless and could only follow the Flag Master to steal the big dragon. They didn't even care about their home anymore. Flag Master, I will go and poke a hole to prevent Blind from stealing the big dragon. Luo Ho was very steady. Kai Yun said in disdain, What are you going to poke a hole for? If Blind comes, I will save my skill to insta-kill him. Flag. Sky Red was about to speak. Kai Yun directly said, Little Red. Don't speak. Keep quiet. Alright, the big dragon's blood spurted out very quickly. However, a flash of light suddenly appeared. Kai Yun was stupefied as he saw Blind appearing and snatching the big dragon, then going up again. The 5 of them stood blankly in the pit of the big dragon. Kai Yun directly typed and scolded Blind for being shameless. Flag Master. Sword Saint is going to demolish our home. Luo Ho hurriedly reported the situation. Go home. Kai Yun waved his hand and gave the order. Just as everyone was returning to the city, a big easy flew over and instantly interrupted them. Kai Yun, everyone from South Wuchi watched as their base was demolished by Sword Saint. Chapter 694. Kai Yun held on to his head and was about to go crazy. You bunch of swindlers, can't you let me win a round? Haven't you all heard of the saying that a dragon can destroy a person's life? I'm so angry. Kai Yun pouted his small mouth and had a very unhappy look on his face. Yu Hua hugged Kai Yun and comforted him gently. Flag Master, don't be angry, your favorite Mai Xianfeng is here. It's here. Hearing that there was a Mai Xianfeng, Kai Yun immediately beamed with joy. Flag Master, the takeaway is here. White Bones brought over a pile of delicious food, and Kai Yun hopped around to look for the mai xian feng. That sweet taste made Kai Yun reveal a satisfied smile. The food in this world is really delicious, so fragrant. To be able to provide delicious food for Flag Master is humanity's fortune. White Bones, who was in the air, said respectfully. Kai Yun raised his hand and was a little proud. Then, he asked, White Bones, how is the investigation going these few months? Reporting to Flag Master, the overall strength of this world is very weak, there isn't any powerful existence. White Bones had been collecting information these few months, and the others had been playing games with Flag Master. Hearing such words, Kai Yun's complexion turned bad again. He had a typical childish personality. Boring. Kai Yun pouted and said. After eating a mai xian feng, Kai Yun picked up a potato and started eating. Lower the requirement then, ordinary is fine too. Flag Master, there might not even be ordinary. White Bones said softly. What? Not even ordinary? So weak. Kai Yun was in disbelief. How do the people on this planet live? After a long time, Kai Yun continued, lower the requirement then, lower the requirement then. There is. White Bones said respectfully. Kai Yun said in boredom, let's listen to it then. In Europe, there is a person who claims to be a demon called Lucifer, there is also a person who claims to be a local called Voidless Realm, and there is also a person who claims to be an empress. White Bones reported the people who were of a lower strength. Kai Yun picked up the tube and inserted it into the cola, then took a deep breath, just these three? Yes, Flag Master. White Bones said respectfully. Kai Yun took a deep breath, then, go and invite them over for a meal. It's so boring, let's continue to play games. Yes. Flag Master. White Bones said respectfully. The five of them returned to their seats. Yuhua asked curiously, Flag Master, why did you call them over? I don't know, when the time comes, it will depend on my mood. I don't talk about these things anymore, I want to be a mid-laner, if you don't want to give it to me, then I will give it to you. The four subordinates. In a castle in Europe, Lucifer was sitting on his throne. His slender fingers rested on the armrest as he slowly tapped it. South Wuchi, this faction has been here for some time. Do you have any information? Lucifer asked calmly. Lord Lucifer, other than the delivery every day, there's no other information. Owen was also one of Lucifer's demon generals. His strength was extraordinary, and he was also a handsome guy. Lucifer said in a deep voice, the last time Taylor and Julia went to capture someone, they didn't expect to be left in the East forever. Lord Lucifer, the East has always been very mysterious. If there's no need, don't ever go there. The one who spoke was called Miller, also one of the demon generals. When he found out that 2 demon generals had died in the mysterious East, Lucifer was furious. At that time, he wanted to take revenge for his subordinates, but he was stopped by the 2 of them. Although it was a little unjust, their instincts told them that if Lord Lucifer went there, he definitely wouldn't come back. The 2 demon generals even fought with Lucifer. In the end, Lucifer didn't go to the mysterious East, but he had always kept this grudge in his heart. As long as there was a chance, he would definitely take revenge for his subordinates. Lucifer said angrily, you guys are just exaggerating. Lord Lucifer, please calm down. Owen persuaded carefully, hoping that Lord Lucifer wouldn't act on impulse and take a step back. It had to be said that these 2 subordinates had stopped Lucifer from sending their heads to the demon generals. They were rare good subordinates and deserved to be praised. Let's talk about this mysterious South Wuchi. Lucifer put his depression aside first. There's nothing to talk about. A voice suddenly rang out from the air. Owen and Miller immediately became vigilant. Lucifer suddenly stood up, then looked around and shouted, who is it? One of the 5 banners of South Wuchi, White Bones. The strange voice rang out from the air again. South Wuchi. We were just talking about this South Wuchi just now, and I didn't expect that South Wuchi would appear so quickly. This is too much of a coincidence. Furthermore, it's that strange white bones. Lucifer didn't dare to be careless and asked, "What are you doing here?" White Bones said faintly, "The Banner Master has ordered to invite you to South Wuchi for a meal." "A meal?" Owen shouted out coldly, "What qualifications does your Banner Master have to invite the great Lucifer?" PFFF. Just after Owen finished speaking, he felt a chill on his chest. Drip, 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 the sound of blood dripping onto the ground rang out in the hall, and it seemed very strange. Owen lowered his head and took a look at his chest blankly. My chest was pierced through, but I can't see anything at all. It felt as if my chest was pierced through by air, but I can feel the chill coming from that pierced through my chest. Insulting the Banner Master, there is only death for you. White Bones said coldly. When White Bones retracted his hand, Owen's chest was like a fountain, and boiling hot blood splattered onto the ground. The black wings on Owen's back immediately opened up, and Owen slowly walked a few steps, then fell into a pool of blood. Killing a demon general with a single strike, this caused Lucifer to feel shocked, to the point that he didn't even dare to move. Miller, who was at the side, also didn't dare to say anything. I can't sense where the enemy is at all, and I feel a chill on my back. It seems that if I were to say anything, I would die on the spot. 3 days later. The Banner Master will be waiting for your arrival. If the person doesn't arrive, then the head is fine too. Right now, Lucifer was trying to find the location of White Bones, but he was completely unable to find it. Facing such a threat, Lucifer didn't have any strength to retaliate at all, and he could only watch as his subordinate died. After quite a while, Miller said in alarm, "Lord Lucifer, that person seems to have left." Lucifer didn't know if that person had left or not, and his expression was very tense. After around half an hour, Lucifer finally couldn't bear it anymore and sat down. Miller was also scared to the point that his forehead was filled with sweat. "Lord Lucifer, 3 days later, we go," Lucifer said gravely. "There's no other way, that person's strength is too terrifying." Miller let out a breath. "If I don't go, I will die, but if I go, I will still be able to have a try." Chapter 695. On a certain mountaintop in Japan. The houses here were all built on the mountainside. There were no walkways around the houses, and there were only thin ropes around the houses. Countless shadows were shuttling back and forth at an extremely fast speed. The building on the mountaintop was very special. Although it didn't have any special decorations, just by standing there, it gave off a feeling of reverence. Looking down from above, there were small bridges, flowing water, cherry blossoms, and pink petals falling onto the ground, presenting a beautiful picture. From time to time, clattering sounds could be heard coming from the wooden place. Some women wearing wooden clogs were serving desserts, and their deathly white makeup looked a bit scary. In the main hall, a few men were kneeling on the ground. The one sitting in the middle was naturally the big boss of Seoul Group, Miyamoto Shotai. Below him, there were also 4 people wearing loose black and white kimonos, and their faces were filled with respect. "Did that Nan Wuchi make any movements recently?" Miyamoto Shotai asked in a low voice. That goatee was very funny, causing the 4 subordinates to not dare to look straight at Miyamoto Shotai, fearing that they wouldn't be able to hold back their laughter. Because Miyamoto Shotai also looked very funny, and coupled with that goatee, it feels like a joke. "Miyamoto-sama, Nan Wuchi hasn't made any movements these few months," Shi Tianguang said while slightly lowering his head. Miyamoto Shotai let out a breath. "Nan Wuchi has been here for a few months, but he actually didn't make any movements. This is very surprising." "Miyamoto-sama, maybe this Nan Wuchi is looking for an opportunity." Nakata Koda was a small fatty, and while kneeling, he looked like a meatball. The person who was sitting below the fatty was called Hiyi Mingming. This person was rather skinny, and he was very tall, giving people a feeling that he was a bamboo pole. "Miyamoto-sama, rest assured, Nanwuchi will definitely turn China's cultivation world upside down. I'm afraid that Voidless Realm will make an appearance. Kazuta Taniguchi said gravely. Miyamoto Shotai picked up the wooden cup in his right hand, took a small sip, then put it down. Voidless Realm has always been a thorn in my heart. If not for Voidless Realm, we would have long invaded China. Miyamoto-sama, rest assured, I believe that China's cultivation world will be in chaos soon. At that time, we will definitely be able to intervene. Nakata Koda said with a fawning smile. Coupled with that chubby face of his, Nakata Koda looked very scary. I wonder when Nanwuchi is going to make his move. I'm really worried. Miyamoto Shotai said faintly. In his heart, he hoped that Nanwuchi would be able to exterminate Voidless Realm, and it would be best if both Voidless Realm and Voidless Realm were to end up with both Voidless Realm and Voidless Realm being heavily injured. It can't be that Nanwuchi is afraid of Voidless Realm, right? That's why they haven't made a move yet. Kazuta Taniguchi murmured. Puff. Just as he finished speaking, Taniguchi Kazuta felt a chill on his back. He felt as if his heart had been grabbed. Wada, what's wrong? He wisely saw that Wada Taniguchi didn't look well and asked with concern. I have thorns, bang. Taniguchi Kazuta could be seen heavily falling onto the wooden table, and his heart was floating in the air, slowly moving. This terrifying scene caused the 4 people present to not dare to move recklessly. Wada Taniguchi is a super strong ninja, how can he be killed in a second? Ha! He shouted in anger. A katana appeared in his hand and he slashed at the air. Boom! With a single slash, the entire house was split open. It was terrifying. However, he wisely only felt a chill on his chest, and his heart was being pulled out by someone. 2 bloody hearts floated in the air. He who was holding onto the katana stared blankly at his own beating heart, then slowly fell onto the ground. Humph! Do you think that I, Nanwuchi, will be afraid of the weak Voidless Realm? What a joke! White Bones said with an eerie tone as he clenched his fists. The 2 boiling hot hearts immediately exploded, and blood splattered onto Shi Tianguang and Nakata Goda's faces. The 2 of them were clearly scared stiff. Miyamoto Shotai was the same as well. You, who are you? Miyamoto Shotai said intermittently, he was very frightened. I am one of the 5 banners of Nanwuchi, White Bones. White Bones. How could the remaining 3 people not have heard of White Bones? They had watched those few videos of White Bones before, and they even felt that White Bones was the strongest among the 5 banners. Because White Bones doesn't have any form, how are they supposed to kill it? Kill it with my consciousness? Or stare it to death with Doom's eyes? Both of these are completely impossible. However, what they didn't know was that White Bones was actually the weakest among the 5 banners, and the other 4 banners were even more monstrous. Miyamoto Shotai slowly stood up, then immediately did a 90° bow. When Ishida and Nakata Goda saw that their boss had already bowed, without thinking, they immediately stood up and did a 90° bow. They were incomparably sincere. Lord White Bones, I apologize for offending you just now, but it definitely wasn't my wish. Miyamoto Shotai said gravely. White Bones looked at the 3 despicable people in front of it, and there wasn't any fluctuation in its emotions. 3 days later. The banner's master invites you over for a meal. White Bones said calmly. This sentence gave Miyamoto Shotai quite a scare. A meal? Are you sure that I'm not going to eat people? But am I going to deny it now? What is the consequence? Miyamoto Shotai took a look at the wooden floor. Those 2 lumps of flesh and blood are so conspicuous. This should be the consequence of not agreeing to it, right? Alright, I will definitely come over 3 days later. Miyamoto Shotai said respectfully, not daring to raise his head at all. After a long while, when no one heard White Bones' voice, everyone slowly straightened their backs, then sat powerlessly on the floor. Ishida Hikaru mumbled, this Nanwuchi is indeed powerful. Yeah, we killed the two of them without leaving a trace. Nakata Senda looked at the two corpses. There was a bloody hole in their chests. It was terrifying. How was this murder? It was a complete instant kill. There was no logic to it at all. With his brows tightly wrinkled, Miyamoto Nagata said, I'm afraid that this Nanwuchi is even stronger than Voidless Realm. Miyamoto-sama, if we can get on Nanwuchi's good side, I'm sure it'll be more beneficial for us. The little fatty, Nakata Senda, gave a good suggestion. His blood was flowing with submission. Miyamoto Shotai felt that this idea is very good, I can give it a try, if we can reach an agreement, join the alliance, it will definitely be beneficial to me. 3 days later, the two of you will go with me. Miyamoto Nagatake decided that he had to give it a try. In any case, he would die either way. Nakata Genta didn't want to die. He hurriedly said, Miyamoto-sama, you should know that my mother's birthday is in 3 days. Yes, Miyamoto-sama, my son is getting married in 3 days. Ishida Hikaru hurriedly refused. Dinner 3 days later, that's definitely going to be the last dinner. Miyamoto Shotai said faintly, birthday? How about changing it to a funeral? Marriage? Let's change it to a funeral. The two immediately knelt on the floor and shouted out in unison, subordinate is willing to follow Miyamoto-sama. Chapter 696. Inside Voidless Realm. Do Fushir and Li Hun were strolling in the mountains. Li Hun leaned on Do Fushir's side sweetly and held on to Do Fushir's arm tightly, as if she was afraid that Do Fushir would run away. Little Do, will you not want me any more in the future? Li Hun asked softly, her originally sweet face became bitter. In Li Hun's heart, she was afraid of being abandoned. Now that she had given everything to Do Fushir, she naturally hoped to grow old together with Do Fushir. Hearing Li Hun's words, Do Fushir laughed lightly, Little Li Hun, what happened to you recently? Why are you always asking such questions? Just answer me, I want to hear it. Li Hun pouted her little mouth. Do Fushir stopped walking and held on to Li Hun's shoulder. Looking at Li Hun's beautiful face, Do Fushir still felt as if he was dreaming. Li Hun is too beautiful, what did I do to deserve you to love me so much? Do Fushir stretched out his hand and caressed the mark between Li Hun's eyebrows, Little Li Hun, you are so beautiful. Hearing the praise of the person she liked, Li Hun smiled very happily and directly hugged Do Fushir tightly, Little Do, I like you so much, I want to be with you for the rest of my life. And, we will be together for the rest of our lives. Do Fushir lightly caressed Li Hun's long hair and felt that he had become more mature. After having a woman, men will naturally become more mature, this is great. Little Li Hun, how about we play hide and seek? Do Fushir smiled and said. Sometimes, a couple needs to interact with each other. Alright, you hide, I will come and catch you if I catch you, I want, Li Hun said coyly. She even bit her lips lightly, her meaning couldn't be any more obvious. Do Fushir scratched the back of his head, no problem, I guarantee that you will feel comfortable. And, quickly go and hide, once I catch you, we will go back. After speaking, Li Hun covered her beautiful eyes. Do Fushir took the opportunity and kissed Li Hun's cheek. Annoying quickly go and hide, I will let you kiss me to your heart's content later. Okay. Do Fushir immediately ran away, his speed was so fast that it made one speechless. He was easily caught by departing soul and he even got some benefits. To think that he would really play around. How could a straight guy like him have a girlfriend? Do Fushir didn't know where he had run off to, so he stood quietly on top of a tree, thinking that little Soul Hun definitely wouldn't be able to find him. I'm a gold raider, Do Fushir. I'm a top-notch expert in searching for dragons and exploring caves. He might not be able to find dragons now, but his acupoint detection skills were getting better and better. After waiting for a long time, Do Fushir still did not see the soul separation Do, revealing a pleased smile. However, his smile soon froze. He felt that there was someone behind him. Little Solhan had found him. Ha, congratulations, you found me. Do Fusher turned around with a smile on his face. He had even thought of how he was going to return. However, when Do Fusher turned around, he did not see anyone at all and was instantly stunned. But it really felt like there was someone there just now. What was going on? Suddenly, Do Fusher's eyes narrowed and he immediately dodged. The tree beside him was instantly cut in half. Do Fusher, who had fallen to the ground, looked at his arm, which had a bloody wound. This situation caused Floating Do to be shocked. Who is it? Do Fusher asked in a low voice. There was no one around, only the faint sound of the wind and the rustling of the leaves. A sense of danger suddenly struck. Do Fusher did not have much time to think and dodged the attack. Bang! The place where he was standing just a moment ago was cut in half. Do Fusher's heartbeat began speeding up. How is this possible? Uncle Wei was the one who bestowed him with power, a terrifying power. Even soul separation Do is not my opponent, just who is this person? Who is it? If you have the guts, come out. Do Fusher shouted out again. White Bones said faintly, you are not bad, you were able to dodge 2 of my attacks. Hearing the words that came from the air, Do Fusher became even more unable to remain calm. Do Fusher looked around with a panicked expression on his face. Just like what Yi Hua had said, Do Fusher and the Green and Red brothers were indeed very strong, but they lacked battle experience, and adding on that they did not have any cultivation techniques, they were not Do Fusher's opponent at all. Swoosh! Do Fusher felt a chill on his right shoulder, and when he turned around to take a look, he saw that his shoulder had been cut in half. A wave of pain immediately spread to his brain. However, right now, Do Fusher still did not know where the enemy was. Come out! Do Fusher shouted out angrily and punched the air, causing a huge shockwave to erupt out. It's useless. You are still too weak. White Bones said faintly. Do Fusher's gaze became serious. This voice is coming from behind me. I finally found you. Without any hesitation, a powerful black light condensed on Do Fusher's fist and directly punched towards the voice. Boom, boom, boom. The entire forest collapsed in a fan shape, and a powerful spiritual pressure erupted out. The pain on Do Fusher's shoulders caused his breathing to become a bit chaotic. Looking at the scene that he had created, Do Fusher laughed and said, "This is what you get for looking down on me, a gold raider. I will kill you, the invader, with a single punch." Right after he finished speaking, Do Fusher felt that his chest had suffered a huge impact, and even his chest bones caved in. Do Fusher's body flew out like a cannonball, giving rise to a loud sound, and the entire mountain shook violently. Right now, Do Fusher was lying on a pile of dirt, and there was a clear fist mark on his chest. Blood was continuously flowing out from the corner of his mouth, and his eyes were lifelessly looking at his surroundings. Little Do Fusher. When Do Fusher heard that familiar voice, his expression immediately changed. Enduring the pain on his chest, he shouted out loudly, "Soul separation. Don't come over, go and look for his honor." How could soul separation possibly listen to Do Fusher's words? Just now, when she discovered that there was a huge spiritual chi fluctuation, she hurriedly came over to take a look at the situation. After that, she saw her beloved man lying on a pile of dirt, looking as if he was about to die. "Little Do Fusher, what happened to you? Don't scare me." Soul separation supported Do Fusher up and asked with a sobbing tone. "Soul separation. There is an invader. He is very strong. You are not a match for him, quickly go and inform his honor." "There is danger," Do Fusher hurriedly said. "Now is not the time to be whispering sweet nothings to each other, quickly go and inform his honor." "Invader." Soul separation's beautiful face immediately became filled with anger, and she fiercely stood up and shouted out, "Who dares to hit my man? Your man is very weak." White Bones said lightly. Hearing those words that came from the air, soul separation immediately became vigilant, and a 5-colored divine sword materialized in her hand. Soul separation. Quickly run. You are not a match for him. Do Fushir grabbed onto soul separation's ankle and said with a pleading tone. Soul separation's gaze was locked onto the air. Soul separation, who had rich battle experience, closed her beautiful eyes and sensed the slight spiritual chi fluctuation coming from the air. However, she was completely unable to sense any spiritual chi fluctuation coming from the air. Come out. Soul separation shouted out coldly. White Bones didn't want to kill the 2 people in front of him. I'm not interested in fighting with you two, goodbye. Chapter 697. A swift and fierce sword chi immediately swept over, but nothing happened. The woman's 6th sense told her that she was in danger. Soul drifting quickly formed a hand seal, and a red barrier appeared on her right. Bang! The barrier was instantly shattered, and a painful blow landed on Drifting Soul's right shoulder. Drifting Soul's right shoulder instantly deformed, and her delicate body was sent flying, crashing into countless trees. Soul detachment. Do Fushir screamed as he stood up. You overestimate yourself. White Bones said indifferently. I'm going to *CK you to death. Do Fushir was furious. How dare he hit his woman? Do Fushir unleashed his explosive power, and a terrifying black mist seeped out of his body. The wounds on his arms quickly healed, and some of his flesh wounds even started to heal, causing White Bones to feel suspicious. This man was very weak, but his strength was enormous. This was especially so for this strange black mist, which made it difficult for him to understand. Feeling the immense power in his body, Do Fushir's eyes turned red as he looked at the empty forest in front of him. Here comes the problem. Hit where? Puff. Do Fushir felt a chill in his lower abdomen, as if he had been pierced by something. White Bones' voice sounded from behind him, in my eyes, you are still too weak. One thought Lotus. An enraged roar rang out as a terrifying spiritual pressure engulfed the entire mountain peak. A pink sword aura shot towards Do Fushir's back. Do Fushir clutched the wound on his abdomen, but it was still bleeding profusely. This strange thing was too terrifying. Not far away, a trail of blood flowed from the corner of Soul Departing's mouth. She held the rainbow divine sword in her hand, and based on her instincts, she had guessed that the strange thing was definitely behind her husband, so she unleashed a powerful attack in that direction. I wonder if I have hit the jackpot or not, little Daodu. Flying Soul hurriedly ran over to Do Fushir's side and saw that blood was continuously pouring out of Do Fushir's abdomen. This gave Flying Soul a big fright, and he immediately healed Do Fushir. With the black mists healing, Do Fushir wouldn't die. White Bones said softly, you guys are annoying me. As soon as these words rang out, Do Fushir and Soulless expressions changed drastically. What the hell was going on? He couldn't see or feel anything. How could he fight? So, go to hell. White Bones growled as he charged towards Do Fushir and Soul Seeker. To the two of them, they couldn't feel the fluctuation of spiritual chi in the air at all. It was as if he could control the air to attack at will. Drifting Soul hugged Do Fushir tightly in his arms. There was nothing he could do. His opponent's strength was beyond his expectations. Little Soul Hun, I love you, Do Fushir said weakly. He was afraid that he would never be able to say these words again. When Li Hun heard this, he was no longer afraid. He even smiled, I love you too. Boom! A terrifying shockwave spread out in a circular manner, causing the entire mountain to shake violently. Even the ground cracked. I closed my eyes tightly. I don't feel any pain. Slowly opening her eyes, she saw a golden shield enveloping her and Do Fushir. Not far away from them, they saw his honor and his two wives. When Do Fushir saw Senior coming up, he relaxed and fainted. Yi Hua was originally in the midst of teaching the children, and when he sensed the spiritual energy fluctuation coming from this direction, he thought to himself, that's Wei Chang's aura. I reckon that it's Dou Fushi and soul departing. However, in the next moment, Yi Hua felt that something was amiss. Qing Ye and Dong Huang Baizhi were both looking for him, and thus, Yi Hua hurriedly ran over. When Yi Hua saw this scene, he didn't think too much and hurriedly created a sturdy barrier around the two of them. Because even Yi Hua was unable to sense the existence of white bones, Qing Ye and Dong Huang Baizhi who were behind him were the same as well. Who? To actually dare to barge into my voidless realm? Yi Hua shouted out coldly as his gaze locked onto his surroundings. To be able to silently pass through Voidless Realm's barrier, the other party is indeed very powerful. White Bones was also very surprised. Just now, my attack was actually blocked by a small barrier, and the barrier was released by this man. The person behind this man should be the Empress, right? One of the 5 banners of South Wuqi, White Bones. The sound of White Bones rang out in the air. Hearing the other party's name, Yi Hua was very surprised. Qing Ye and Dong Huang Baizhi's expressions sunk, and it was the same for Soul Departing Soul. It's actually that invisible man, White Bones. This kind of invisibility is too terrifying. Yi Hua slightly wrinkled his brows, South Wuqi. White Bones, it's not appropriate for you to touch my people, right? White Bones didn't answer Yi Hua's question and said, Bannerman invited the Empress to have a meal 3 days later, I hope that the Empress will arrive on time. To actually disregard my words. Yi Hua clenched his hand, and the air in the air seemed to have solidified, just like ice. Creak, creak. The layer of ice in the air began to crack one after another. Boom. The air within a circumference of 1 mile instantly exploded, and the corner of Yi Hua's mouth rose, White Bones. Even if you become one with the air, I still have a way to deal with you. However, White Bones' words rang out in the air again. You are very strong, I hope that you will be able to have a meal 3 days later as well. Bannerman will be very happy to see someone like you. After finished speaking, White Bones left. The air was filled with awkwardness. The corner of Yi Hua's mouth twitched slightly. Why? Why is this White Bones still alive? The air in the air just solidified, why is this White Bones still alive? Just what kind of race is this White Bones? To actually be unable to even kill me. Yi Hua tightly clenched his fists. I didn't expect that I would lose half of the battle against South Wuqi. The main point is. Not only that, the one that I fought was someone else's underling, and the one that got my face slapped by someone else's underling. I, the Supreme Overlord, have traveled unhindered in the world for over 1,000 years, when have I ever lost my cool? Don't leak out a single word about what happened today. Yi Hua shouted out gravely, then disappeared from where he was. I have to properly investigate this matter. Seeing that their husband had left, Qing Ye and Dong Huang Baizhi's faces were filled with concern. This is the first time that they have seen Yi Hua fight, and the other party is still able to come out unscathed. This South Wuqi is indeed very strong, and this White Bones is the same as well. Right now, White Bones had returned to South Wuqi's palace hall. Kai Yun and the others were currently waiting in the 5th row. White Bones, have you informed everyone? Kai Yun was currently checking on his battle record and asked. Because Kai Yun sensed White Bones, it was just that simple. Bannerman, I have informed everyone. White Bones said respectfully. Kai Yun pursed his lips and asked curiously, are they still obedient? And, it's just that Voidless Realm's Empress, oh? She isn't willing to come. Kai Yun's expression tensed up. Yu Hua who was sitting at the side held onto Kai Yun's small hand and lightly rubbed on it, causing Kai Yun's tensed face to ease up. That's not it, it's a man that is beside the Empress, and he is very strong. White Bones said earnestly and gave Yu Hua a high evaluation. Very strong. Upon hearing what White Bones said, Kai Yun immediately became excited, quickly tell me. How is he strong? Chapter 698. 666. Kai-yun clapped his little hands and laughed, like a child. This subordinate was trapped at that time, but that man didn't know about this subordinate's weakness and detonated the air, allowing this subordinate to escape. White Bone's strength lay in its ability to coexist with air. Without air, what awaited it was death. It was like suffocating to death. Thus, just now, Yihua's idea was good. He thought that he would be able to kill Baigu by freezing the air, but in the end, he ended up releasing Baigu instead. If Yihua were to find out about this, he would definitely be so angry that he would vomit blood. This was indeed an excellent opportunity. White Bone was air, so it was very difficult to grasp its position. Just now, he had been very lucky and managed to solidify White Bone. Therefore, after this incident, the White Bone Association became even more vigilant. They had been careless just now. White Bones, be careful. Luo Ho said in a deep voice. White Bone's advantage was terrifying, but its weakness was also fatal. Hearing White Bone's words, Luo Ho realized that it had just walked around the gates of hell. Alright, I got it. At this moment, Kankanghong cupped his hands and said, Chi. Clear Cloud indifferently waved his hand. What are you going to do now? You're disturbing me from playing games. In any case, they'll be here in 3 days. Come, let's keep playing. The shockingly ugly Tsang Konghong nodded his head and began selecting the candidates. The 5 of them started a new game. Although it was just a small collision, it made the Supreme Overlord suffer, and this was the weakest White Bone. What specialties does the 4th-ranked Luo Ho have? There is also the 3rd-ranked Moonlight, the 2nd-ranked Scarecrow, and the strongest and ugliest Firmament Red. There was even their banner master, Kai-yun, a person with the mentality of a child. However, at that time, they were only sealed. Why weren't they directly killed? It was likely that they couldn't be killed. This was a completely different concept from Yihua's team being wiped out. Yihua and the others were killed, while others were helpless, and this was the desolate era. An existence that was even older than the ancient era. This time, Yihua's opponent was a lot stronger than those overlords. They weren't people that could be killed with just a flick of a finger. Not only did he need strength, but he also needed brains. If he wanted to kill White Bones, he would have missed the perfect opportunity just now. The chances of that happening in the future would be very slim. Moreover, against such an enemy, those under the 7 deadly sins had no way of dealing with them. In fact, the slightest bit of carelessness could result in their deaths. If Yihua had not arrived in time, Dou Fushi and Li Hun would have been finished. It wasn't that they were too weak, but that their opponents were too strong. Such an opponent was not someone they could contend against. After returning back to Clear Bar, Yihua immediately called for an emergency meeting. The strength of the opponent had already surpassed Yihua's expectations. To be able to survive under the hands of my rebirth, only this Baigu would be able to do so. After receiving his honor's urgent summon, all of the subordinates hurriedly put down whatever they were doing and rushed over. Yihua even specially called Li Hun over, because Li Hun was the only one who knew about what happened just now. Subordinate. We pay our respect to your honor. The opening speech is always that shocking. However, today, Yihua did not have the mood to enjoy it. When he thought about how he was looked down upon by Baigu just now, Yihua immediately had a stomach full of anger. I was actually ignored by a lackey. Yihua waved his hand casually. All of 7 deadly sins subordinates saw that his honor's expression was very ugly and remained silent. Those from 7 deadly sins knew what this expression meant. That means that his honor is very angry, and it is hard to appease his honor. Nan Wuchi has made his move. Yihua said coldly, and his eyes flickered with a red light. The important thing is that he made his move in front of me. Yihua shouted out angrily. Everyone gasped. This Nan Wuchi's guts are too big, he actually dared to make his move in front of his honor. Where did they get their confidence from? Dou Fushi is heavily injured. Li Hun, tell me what happened to this Baigu. Yihua stabilized the anger in his heart and remained calm. In Yihua's life, he rarely failed. Even when he was fighting against those overlords, he had never failed. He had only failed, but he had never failed before. This Baigu could be considered to have set a precedent, causing Yihua to begin questioning his own strength. Li Hun's injuries were not light, and there was even a trace of blood at the corner of his mouth. Everyone looked at Li Hun with a tense expression on their faces. Wei Cheng felt astonished. After I gave them power, Dou Fusher would be able to do whatever he wanted in this world. As for Li Hun, because of Dou Fusher, he also gained power. The two of them were actually beaten to such a state. This is something that has never happened before. The Green and Red brothers who were standing at the side were also stupefied. Dou Fusher was the same as them, he was also given power. If even Dou Fusher was beaten to such a state, then wouldn't it be the same for them? Zi Shan also had the same thought. Of course, there was also Tang Wei and Lai Gu's 3 wives. All of them were directly given power, and there was basically no chance for them to win. Death Mage could be considered as someone else, he had grasped many types of fatal magic. If he used his brain properly, he would still be able to win, but he wouldn't be able to insta-kill his opponent like before. As for Sun Fang, forget about it, she was the same as them, she didn't have any hope of winning. This also caused Yihua to face this problem head-on. The subordinates of subordinates should start cultivating. I am able to bestow powerful strength to my subordinates, but in the later stages, my subordinates still need to work hard on their own. Just like this time, I was actually beaten to such a state by someone else's underlings. I have completely lost all of my face. Your Honor, this Nan Wuqi's Baigu is just like what you saw in the video. During the battle, there is no fluctuation of spiritual energy, and it is impossible to sense the position of the Baigu. The Baigu will attack from any angle, and it is impossible to guard against it. Even the attacks will not have any effect on it. After Li Hun finished speaking, he stood there respectfully. You all heard it right. Even I am unable to feel the fluctuation of this Baigu's aura. Furthermore, when we were fighting, Baigu was completely unharmed. Yihua's words caused all of the subordinates to be stupefied. His honor actually failed. This also caused all of the subordinates to become vigilant. In the past, when we were having meetings, it was just like a joke, because we were not afraid of Baigu at all. After all, Baigu's opponents were all salted fish, and Baigu's opponents could be killed with just a flick of his finger. However, this time, even his honor was unable to kill Baigu. How is this possible? Zhu Tian, who was within Bream's embrace, said, Your Honor. I have also seen Baigu's video before, and adding on what Li Hun said just now, subordinate believes that Baigu is a type of race that exists in the air. During the Desolate Era, there were many strange races, and this Baigu is most likely one of them. As a part of the air, this Baigu is not afraid of any kind of attack, and it is commonly known as being immune to all kinds of attacks. Yihua nodded his head. Indeed, even when I condensed and exploded the air, I still wasn't able to kill Baigu. Your Honor, could it be that Baigu doesn't have any weaknesses? Yi Zizi asked curiously. It was rare for Baigu to become serious. No matter how powerful a race is, there would always be a weakness. This Baigu definitely has a weakness. Chapter 699. Yihua said eerily, This is still just a white bone. One of the 5 flags, and there is even a flag master. This will be the strongest opponent we've ever faced since the formation of the team. I hope that everyone can have the right attitude. People that aren't part of the 7 sins. After this matter, I hope that you all can recognize your own inadequacies. There are a lot of people that are stronger than you all. Don't stay at the same spot. What you should be cultivating, you should cultivate. If in the next few years, you all still stay at the same spot, then don't blame me for being merciless. The subordinates were naturally able to sense his honor's anger, and they didn't dare to say much. Subordinates will not disappoint his honor. Also, 3 days later, I will be making a trip to South Wuchi. This time, Lai Gu and Yi Zizi will be following me. There is also Death Mage. As for the rest, stay on standby. It was very rare for Yi Hua to look at his opponents like this. Even when he was fighting against God raising heaven and earth, he did it with a playful attitude, because God raising heaven and earth was the kind of existence that he could destroy with just a flick of his finger. However, this time, when he moved his finger, God raising heaven and earth was actually not injured at all. What the hell? Yes. Lai Gu shouted out respectfully, and cruelty flickered within his eyes. Yes, Yi Zizi replied sweetly, and excitement could be seen within her pair of scarlet eyes. I wonder how much stronger I will become after I absorb all of those people. GGG, Imperial Translation, understood. I still have one last question. Yi Hua asked gravely. Looking at his honor's deep gaze, the subordinates slightly lowered their heads. During the ancient era, they belonged to the strong category. And the medium category. And the weak category. After finished speaking, Yi Hua disappeared from Leisure Bar. In the past, Yi Hua felt that he was invincible, but after the matter with the white bone, he knew that he was still not strong enough. He was actually unable to kill the white bone in an instant. Too weak. After Yi Hua left, everyone didn't leave and sat on the stools in Leisure Bar. A sense of defeat. A deep sense of defeat. And also a kind of shame. When his honor faced a problem that he was unable to solve, the subordinates were actually unable to help him. Furthermore, listening to his honor's tone, it seemed like he was completely unable to interfere in this kind of matter. This was a huge blow to the subordinates of the subordinates. It turned out that there was an even stronger existence. Wei Chang looked at his subordinates and said gravely, just now, his honor said that although all of you have been bestowed with great power, because your lives were too peaceful, all of you neglected to cultivate. Look at the two newly born overlords, as his honor's children, all of you have to cultivate diligently every single day. As his honor's subordinates, all of you have to work even harder. If not, how would his honor be able to give you all missions in the future? Hearing what Wei Chang said, everyone's hearts felt very heavy. We feel that we have let down his honor's nurturing. Did we think that with this strength, it would be enough? Today's matter had given them a lesson. It turns out that there are still people in this world that they cannot defeat. The newcomer, floating battle, had been beaten like a dog, unable to retaliate. Yi Hong abruptly stood up and cupped his hands, saying, Uncle Wei, will definitely cultivate well. I will not let his honor lose face. Zi Shan, who was sitting at the side, slightly raised her head and looked at her husband's face. Suddenly, she realized that her husband's figure in her heart had become much bigger. LV Liang also stood up and said, That's right. This matter is worthy for us to reflect upon. Wei Chang nodded his head, I hope that everyone here will treat this matter seriously. This time, his honor is truly angry. If anyone doesn't cultivate hard and doesn't take out a good result, Wei Chang will not be soft-hearted. Yes. Wei Chang nodded his head, there is no need for you all to interfere in this matter, go back and cultivate properly. Everyone responded respectfully, then left one after another with heavy hearts. Only 5 people from the 7 deadly sins remained. Brett hugged onto Zhu Tian and lightly caressed onto Zhu Tian. Right now, Zhu Tian had already given up on resisting, and he even revealed out a comfortable look on his face, seemingly like he was enjoying it very much. Zizi, Lai Gu, this time, when you follow his honor over, you have to be careful, do not underestimate the enemy. Wei Chang reminded. Wei Chang, be at ease, this time, the reason why we are going over is to fight for our face. Lai Gu understood why his honor called him over, it was because his honor wanted to teach the other party a lesson. Wei Chang nodded his head, that's right, this time, his honor failed in front of the other party's subordinates, and his honor is very unhappy. Wei Chang, be at ease, I, Yi Zizi, have never been afraid of anyone. Yi Zizi said with a smile on her face. Yi Zizi was already impatient to go over to the 7 deadly sins. Right now, Brett's mission was to properly protect Zhu Tian, who was currently in a weakened state. Right now, Zhu Tian was as weak as an ordinary cat, and a fruit knife would be enough to deal with him. However, Zhu Tian jumped onto the table and said gravely, "Just now," His Honor said, "just what kind of existence was Nan Wuqi during the Great Era? Was he weak or was he strong? Just how many people like Nan Wuqi have yet to appear? These are all hidden dangers." Zhu Tian, the Great Era has already passed for a very long time, and the information that is left behind is too little. If it wasn't for Zishan seeing a little of the information, we wouldn't even know that they were people from the Great Era. Brett let out a light sigh. The Great Era was too far away, it was even far away from the Ancient Era, and no one knew what kind of powerful existences existed during the Great Era. This time, Yi Zizi had only managed to touch a little bit of the Great Era. Zhu Tian took a glare at Brett. "Women, your hair is long, but your knowledge is short. Although we don't know, we still have to take precautions. As the subordinates of the Supreme Overlord, this is something that we have to do." Zhu Tian shouted out seriously. From the looks of it, the sudden incident this time was a good thing for the entire team. After all, the team was too pessimistic, thinking that they were invincible, they didn't even need to train. However, the arrival of White Bones gave the entire team a lesson. Even Yihua felt that he was still too weak. "If I can't insta-kill all of my enemies, then I, the Supreme Overlord, am not the strongest. Therefore, I, the Supreme Overlord, am going to go into closed-door training for 3 days. I need to properly think about life. Nothing can stop me from becoming stronger, nothing can stop me from becoming stronger." Inside Voidless Realm. Qingye and Donghuang Baizhi were very worried about Yihua's situation, and right after they came back, they locked themselves inside the room. It seems like Yihua was beaten into a closed-door training. "Qingye, what should we do?" Donghuang Baizhi asked worriedly. Ever since she met Yihua, this was the first time she saw Yihua acting like this. Qingye said worriedly, "I'm afraid that today's incident is a huge blow to Yihua. Just now, I found out from Zishan that Yihua started scolding Yihua. Sai, we are actually unable to help Yihua at all." Donghuang Baizhi started blaming herself a bit. As a wife, she didn't want to be a vase. Although Yihua often told them that it would be fine for them to be as beautiful as flowers and leave the rest to him, Donghuang Baizhi and Donghuang Baizhi felt that they were useless. However, if something really happened to Yihua, the two wives would feel that they were useless. Chapter 700. Happy? Donghuang Baizhi was puzzled. How can I make Yihua happy? A second later, Qingye and Donghuang Baizhi took a look at each other. To make Yihua happy, there seems to be only one way. Right now, Yihua was sitting cross-legged in his bedroom. Perhaps it was because he hadn't cultivated for a long time, he was unable to calm down. When he thought of the arrogant tone of the White Bones, his lungs were about to explode from anger. One of Nan Wuqi's underlings actually dared to be arrogant in front of me, and I can't do anything to him at all. This won't do, I must calm down and start cultivating. I must not be disturbed by the outside world. I must insta-kill you all and make you all tremble under my power. Just like this, no one is allowed to disturb my cultivation. Cultivation will make me happy. Cultivation will make me happy. Cultivation will make me happy. Just as Yihua was hypnotizing himself, 2 beautiful figures suddenly appeared in front of him. Looking at Qingye and Donghuang Baizhi, Yihua's firm face stiffened. Even though he often sees the two of them, he couldn't help but respect them right now. Qingye could be seen wearing a black spaghetti top, her long and beautiful legs were wrapped by lace stockings. Her skirt was already as low as it could get, and there was a black unknown fabric covering her bra. Her flat lower abdomen did not have the slightest bit of fat, and coupled with that beautiful face of hers, any man would definitely explode, including me. And the empress was actually wearing a set of white spaghetti top for the first time. Different from Qingya's black spaghetti top, what the empress was wearing was a pair of white silk stockings with a net, which was even more explosive. The lace small skirt would occasionally sway, and even Yihua's heart would sway. The empress's chest was the kind that was extremely full, and Yihua often couldn't bear to part with it. And today, the empress had specially wrapped her chest up, and this was simply a visual impact. Yihua had never seen the two of them dressed like this before. It wasn't that I didn't request to dress like this before, but rather, all of my requests were rejected. In the past, you were unwilling to dress like this, but today, when I started cultivating, I came. You two are going against me, right? Do you think that I will give up cultivating just because you are dressed like this? That's impossible. Just as Yihua was determined in his heart. The empress took out a steel pipe from God knows where and directly inserted it into the ground. This caused Yihua's heart to skip a beat. Qingya and Dong Huangbaiji could be seen lightly stroking the big and thick steel pipe. This scene caused Yihua to feel like he was about to explode as he gulped down his saliva. Yihua, Qingya shouted out tenderly. Her charming eyes were like silk, and she even stuck out her tongue to lick the corner of her mouth. The empress twisted her body slightly, and bit her lower lip lightly. Her slender legs were wrapped around the steel pipe. Why did I suddenly want to be that steel pipe? Dong Huangbaiji let out her alluring voice. Yihua, what are you sitting there for? Aren't you going to come over? Qingya and Dong Huangbaiji didn't know that their husband was planning to cultivate at all, and they thought that their husband was just feeling unhappy, and that's why they were thinking of ways to make their husband happy. If they knew that Yihua was cultivating, they definitely wouldn't have come to disturb him. Looking at how his two wives were acting, Yihua was struggling in his heart. They still needed to cultivate. I am a man. Moreover, it was a man who was determined to cultivate. To go and cultivate, or to roll in bed with my wives. If I were to get killed by someone one day, it would all be their fault. To do such a thing while I am cultivating, these two truly are vixens. Yihua could be seen walking straight towards the two wives, then carrying them into his embrace, then walking towards the bed. A storm of blood suddenly erupted. Qingya and Dong Huangbaiji were especially attentive, and they were doing their best to make their husband happy. Today, when they saw the disappointed look on their husband's face, their hearts ached endlessly, and they hoped that doing so would be able to alleviate their husband's mood. Speaking of which, it was quite effective, just that it took a bit too long. 3 days passed by very quickly. Voidless Realm's morning was still so comfortable. God Yi and Yi Lu fought with each other every day, while Dong Huangli and Yi Yan sat at the side and watched. Yi Yan rubbed his swollen eyes. It has already been 3 days, and father and mother still haven't come out yet. Are they cultivating? They should be. Dong Huangli laid on the table and seemed very bored. I heard that father encountered some difficulties. Yi Yan said sneakily. The children still didn't know about this matter. The news was sealed, and Dou Fusher was also tight-lipped. Dong Huangli hammered onto the stone table with her small fists. We are still too young, father and mother don't want us to know too much. That's right, I really hope that I can grow up faster so that I can help father. Yi Yan really hopes that he can grow up faster. When the time comes, he will be able to help his father fight for the world. Rumble, Yi Yan rubbed onto his stomach embarrassedly. Dong Huangli patted onto her little brother's shoulder. You should eat your fill first before you grow up. The food that aunt cooks is so disgusting. Yi Yan said in pain. For the past 3 days, the little fellow had been eating at Qing Yutong's place. Qing Yutong didn't know how to cook at all, and thus, the little fellow could only take out a tablet and learn how to cook. After getting used to eating the food that their mother cooks, the 4 little fellows' mouths had all become picky, which was why such a situation occurred. Alright, Aunt has been very tired these past few days, you have to understand Aunt. Dong Huangli said helplessly. Looking at the time, Dong Huangli stood up and shouted out, Everyone, stop for a moment, let's go and eat first. God Yi and Yi Lu's little faces froze, then they squeezed out a smile and said, sister, brother, you guys go ahead. We're not hungry. Yes, I'll practice with big brother a little more, Yi Lu said seriously. Eating was out of the question. Dong Huangli walked forward, then directly held onto her younger brother and younger sister's wrists. We are brothers and sisters, we have to face difficulties together. If you want to run away, don't even think about it. Big sister, Dong Huangli didn't care about all that, and she directly pulled Qing Yutong into Qing Yutong's bedroom. However, as soon as they stepped through the door, the little fellows smelled a fragrant aroma. A sumptuous breakfast was laid out on the table. There were all kinds of dishes, such as steamed buns, fried dough sticks, millet porridge, and even rice noodles with beef. Qing Yutong sat at the side with a smile on her face. The food that I make is not delicious, and furthermore, it is a waste of time, so I might as well go out and buy it back. Isn't that much easier? Little fellows, quickly come and eat breakfast. Qing Yutong lightly smiled and said. With a puzzled expression on their faces, the four little fellows sat on the stool, and the smell that was being emitted from the food was causing their stomachs to call out. All right, Aunt doesn't have that many rules here, quickly eat. Thank you, Aunt. The four little fellows shouted out in unison, then began crazily picking up the food on the table and eating ferociously. While eating, Qing Yutong shouted out, it's so fragrant. Looking at the four little fellows wolfing down the food, Qing Yutong let out a breath. In the future, I can only do this, the food that I make. Chapter 701. On the other side, Yihua had also woken up, and a happy smile could be seen on the corner of Yihua's mouth. These few days, my wives have served me very well, and they have satisfied all of my requests. Damn it, I really need to thank Nan Wuqi. Baiji, wake up. Today, we are going to go and experience Nan Wuqi's strength. Yihua retracted the smile on the corner of his mouth, and his voice suddenly became cold. Right now, Donghuang Baiji didn't even feel like moving anymore. She didn't even have the strength to move her fingers. Let me sleep for another 5 minutes, I don't feel like moving anymore. Donghuang Baiji said tenderly. In any case, it is still early, we can still continue. Yihua said faintly. The Empress instantly opened her eyes in shock. When she saw the naughty smile on her husband's face, she smacked him in exasperation. You're so annoying, you're lying to me again. Oh. Then, I won't lie to you. After finished speaking, Yihua carried the Empress into his embrace. I'll rise, okay? Please spare me. The Empress couldn't take it anymore. However, when she saw that her husband had returned to his original state, she felt that it was still worth it. However, she and Qingye had become half-dead tired. Yihua was just joking with Donghuang Baiji. I have something important to do today, and I have to let this Nan Wuqi have a taste of my strength. Qingye was already tired to the point that she didn't want to open her eyes anymore. However, she still said, you all be careful, I will be watching over Voidless Realm. Yihua kissed onto Qingye's forehead, then said lightly, have a good rest, I will come back to accompany you tonight. And Qingye responded tenderly, then continued to sleep. So sleepy Yihua and Donghuang Baiji were also going out in splendid attire today. In the past, Yihua would basically always wear a black suit, which made him appear calm. However, Yihua, who was in a good mood today, wore a white suit. Donghuang Baiji was still dressed up as an empress, appearing very dignified and dignified. Looking at her husband's white suit, Empress was mesmerized. My husband is so handsome. You only found out today. Yihua laughed lightly, then hugged onto the Empress's willow waist. Then, husband, can I kiss you? Donghuang Baiji asked with a smile. You have my permission. Donghuang Baiji smiled as she wrapped her arms around Yihua's neck and kissed him. As for kissing, it was a daily habit for the husband and wife. It was as if they were in love every day, enjoying it so much that they forgot about their duties. Alright, I'll let you kiss me again when we return tonight. Dong Huang Baiji lightly pushed her husband away and said sweetly. Yi Hua laughed helplessly. These two women really like to whet my appetite, and they are able to succeed every single time. Interesting. However, recently, I have been neglecting my sister-in-law. One day, I will have to find some time to satisfy my sister-in-law's needs. Recently, I have also been training my hand speed, and I will definitely be able to reach the pinnacle of vibrations. The two of them immediately disappeared from the room and arrived at leisure bar. Yi Zizi, Lai Gu, and Death Mage were already waiting for them. Subordinates pay respect to your honor and your madam. The three of them shouted out respectfully. Yi Hua nodded his head. Today, Yi Zizi was wearing a green princess dress, and she looked very cute. Lai Gu was dressed in a red suit, which gave off a bit of a festive feeling. As for Death Mage, he was still dressed in the same black gown as before, and he was holding on to that death scythe. As for why Yi Hua wanted to bring Death Mage over, it was because Yi Hua approved of Death Mage. After all, Death Mage was different from the Green and Red brothers, he had very good battle experience. It is still early now, let's go out and eat breakfast. Yi Hua could be seen that the blood demon had already prepared breakfast and walked out. Your honor, I knew that you were coming over today, thus I had already prepared breakfast. Yi Hua was very gratified. This blood demon is still very sensible, I really didn't have to worry too much. While eating breakfast, Yi Hua said lightly, today, we are mainly going to test out the other party's strength. Aren't you going to kill them? Yi Zizi asked curiously. Yi Zizi, are you able to kill that white bones? Yi Hua asked indifferently. Yi Zizi pouted her mouth, seemingly unable to do anything to the white bones. After pausing for a moment, Yi Hua continued, no matter what, they are still outsiders, I will give them a chance to admit their mistake. Lai Gu agreed with what his honor said. In the past, his honor didn't kill outsiders, and even if he did kill outsiders, it would be those who didn't want to live anymore. The empress who was sitting beside Yi Hua was a bit puzzled. Why doesn't Yi Hua kill outsiders? In actuality, Yi Hua wanted to figure out the weaknesses of the outsiders first. As long as I find out the weaknesses of the outsiders, things would be much easier. Remember, you must definitely force them to use their strongest strength, do not let them hold anything back. I am very curious. Just how strong are the experts from the ancient era? This was Yi Hua's true goal. This could be used as a reference to compare the strength of the outsiders. Yes. The three immediately answered. In Nanhua Banner, under the sunlight, the luxurious palace on the top floor was emitting out a golden radiance, and the palace appeared to be very lofty. Within one of the luxurious rooms, Kai Yun was currently hugging onto Yu Hua and sleeping soundly. Kai Yun looked just like a child who was snuggling into his mother's embrace. Yu Hua had already woken up, and she was lightly caressing the Flag Master's hair. Flag Master, time to wake up. Yu Hua shouted out tenderly. Looking at the Flag Master who was acting coquettishly and lazing in bed, Yu Hua revealed out a warm smile. Flag Master, there are guests coming to visit us today, you have to make some preparations. Kai Yun buried his head into Yu Hua's chest, I don't want to see them, I want to sleep. Flag Master, this is your own request, only children would lie. Yu Hua said helplessly. The Flag Master needs to be coaxed, and only I am able to coax her. I'm not a child. Kai Yun opened his eyes and said angrily. Flag Master, then why are you still lazing in bed? Alright, I'll get up alright, you're so annoying. Looking at the gloomy expression on the Flag Master's face, Yu Hua couldn't help but kiss the Flag Master. The Flag Master immediately smiled. She was the kind of person who would laugh when coaxed. The two finished changing their clothes, then walked out of the luxurious room. Kai Yun yawned, then asked, is the food prepared? Yu Hua nodded her head, Luo Ho is prepared, it's Sichuan flavor. Sichuan flavor? It's pretty good. At this moment, White Bones said respectfully, "Flag Master, Lucifer has brought a subordinate down. He came so early. Yuhua, take a look at my face, is it alright?" Girls all wanted to be beautiful, and Kai Yun was no exception. Flag Master's beauty is unparalleled. Yuhua bowed slightly, incomparably respectful. "And let's go and welcome the guests." Kai Yun was very happy upon hearing that. On the stairs, Lucifer was walking on the stairs with Mir. Why didn't he just fly up? That was because he didn't dare to do that. After all, if he did that, it would be a form of disrespect towards others. This Nan Wuchi is too powerful. Lucifer didn't dare to easily offend Nan Wuchi, and thus, he could only bring Mir up the stairs. Chapter 702. At this time, a helicopter flew over from afar, reporting the situation of Nanwiki as usual. "I don't know what the higher-ups are thinking. Nan Wuchi hasn't done anything yet we're here to take a look." A tall beauty next to him smiled and said, "It's work, after all. It's not easy. Anyway, we'll go back after one round. But it's also dangerous. Who knows what these people are thinking? If they lose the game, what if they vent their anger on us?" The man said helplessly. "When I was playing games, I had already killed people, let alone these weirdos." The beauty was amused and said, "How could such a powerful person play games? You're thinking too much. Who knows? I heard that the more powerful a person is, the weirder they are." "We're almost there," the pilot shouted. The two of them looked at Nan Wuchi, who was not far away from them. Although they could see it every day, every time they saw it, they would feel the urge to worship it. That tall staircase, that dazzling golden hall, it exuded a surging prestige. There are two people on the stairs." As the helicopter got closer, the beauty cried out in surprise. The man also looked over. There were indeed two people. Judging from his attire, he didn't look like an ordinary person. "Come closer, we're going to film." The man asked the driver to come closer so that he could film. The beautiful lady at the side took a look at her makeup, then picked up the microphone and said, "Ladies and gentlemen, we are now reporting from Nanwuchi." Nanwuchi, which has been quiet for a few months, suddenly had an unusual situation today. There are two mysterious foreign men on the stairs, and they seem to be planning to go to Nanwuchi. What are they going to do? Please stay tuned for our next report. "Lord Lucifer, do you want me to clean them up?" Mill asked coldly. These people really didn't know what was good for them. "How dare you disturb Lord Lucifer?" Lucifer's face darkened. He really wanted to shoot the helicopter down, but this was South No Flag's territory. Doing so would be disrespectful to them. "Forget it," Lucifer said in a deep voice. Mir was slightly dazed for a moment before he respectfully replied, "Yes." Not long after, the two of them reached the top and were overwhelmed by the luxurious palace in front of them. The two huge Lingnanwood doors slowly opened, emitting a dull sound. Kai Yun walked out with a smile on his face, followed by 5 flags. This was Kai Yun's first appearance in the outside world. Lucifer looked at this little girl, and his expression was slightly alarmed. Was this the Flag Master? Standing behind Lucifer's avatar, Miller lowered his head subconsciously. The people on the helicopter were also stunned. Was this the legendary flag leader? She turned out to be an underage girl. From her appearance, she looked like a well-behaved girl. She even skipped and skipped as she walked. It refreshed everyone's understanding of the big shots. Maybe they really know how to play games, the man murmured as he carried the camera. The picture here was quickly transmitted to the studio, and the studio soon carried out a live broadcast. The scene was broadcasted to every television. Kai Yun's face also appeared in the bustling plaza. Everyone stopped in their tracks and raised their heads slightly to look at the large screen. This is the banner master of Nanwa Banner. I had thought that it would be a very powerful character, didn't expect that, I didn't expect it to be a girl. Who are these two foreigners? It looks like Nanwiki is welcoming them. Welcome. Are you blind? These two foreigners are about to be scared to death. Indeed, right now, Lucifer and Miller were very panicked. They felt that the scary white bones was just at the side, and he could kill them at any moment. And there was nothing that they could do. Yu Hua, who was standing at the back, took a step forward and said with a slight smile, "Welcome to Nanwa Banner as guests, the flag master is very happy." Lucifer learned from the customs here, cupped his hands and said, "Nanwa Banner's grandeur is indeed extraordinary, this trip was not made in vain. The two of you can take a seat, there are still people that are coming over." Yu Hua lightly waved her hand, and one table after another was placed on the stairs at the center of the plaza. Kai Yun happily sat down first, then looked at Lucifer and shouted, "Quickly come and sit, don't just stand there." Oh, okay. Lucifer's speech was a bit unclear. Just who is this flag master? Up until now, I still can't figure her out. I feel that she looks very innocent on the outside, but in her heart, there is a demon, furthermore, it's the terrifying kind. After such a scene appeared, a lot of people realized that this dinner was actually hosted by Nanwa Banner. Looking at the two tables that were at the side, everyone started guessing who else was going to be there. They all felt that Voidless Realm was one of them, because that foreigner should be representing a power, and Voidless Realm just so happened to be representing the entire cultivation world. Suddenly, three figures appeared, and when these three figures appeared, everyone seemed to have let out a hiss. These three people were, of course, Miyamoto Nagata, Ishida Hikaru, and Nakata Genta. The three people were wearing traditional kimono, white socks, wooden clogs, and pigtails. The three people walked over with small steps and respectfully stood in front of Kai Yun, placed both of their hands on the outside of their thighs, then made a 90 degrees bow, looking incomparably pious. "Greetings, Flag Master." Miyamoto Nagata and the other two shouted out in unison. However, this humble appearance of theirs made everyone sigh and speechless. Even Lucifer didn't act like this just now, this is truly a loss of face. However, Miyamoto Nagata didn't feel that it was a loss of face at all, on the contrary, he felt that it was an unparalleled honor to be able to eat here. In the entire world, I am still invited by Nameless Banner, who else could it be? You all quickly take a seat, the meal is going to start soon. Kai Yun shouted happily, not having the slightest bit of arrogance as a flag master. This made Miyamoto Nagata feel slightly at ease. I'm afraid that this flag master is a homicidal maniac, if that were to happen, things would be bad. Thank you, Flag Master, for your hospitality. Miyamoto Nagata said respectfully, then brought his two subordinates to sit at the side. Just that, his two subordinates were standing, and they didn't have the qualifications to sit at the side. As for the last seat, everyone was guessing in their hearts, just who is it? Is it Voidless Realm? However, right now, they can't even see the shadow of Voidless Realm. Kai Yun was originally still smiling, but as time passed, his face gradually became covered with frost. At this moment, Miyamoto Nagata hurriedly asked, "Flag Master, who are you waiting for?" Kai Yun was puzzled for a moment, then immediately asked towards the white bones behind him, "Who are we waiting for?" It seems like I don't even know who I'm waiting for. However, no matter who I'm waiting for, Kai Yun is very angry. To actually make me, the Flag Master, wait for someone. This is simply too outrageous. Replying to Flag Master, we are still lacking Voidless Realm. White Bone's voice rang out in the air. This unique voice. How could Lucifer and Miyamoto Nagata forget about it? It was precisely that terrifying White Bones. Chapter 703. This Voidless Realm is indeed despicable. To actually not put Flag Master in their eyes. Miyamoto Shotai hurriedly said, pulling the hatred between them to the maximum. Needless to say, it was very effective. Kai Yun's face immediately became even more gloomy, to actually not put me, South Wuchi, in their eyes. Such guts. Looking at Kai Yun's indignant face, Miyamoto Shotai felt very proud. No matter what, this grudge between them is already formed. It's best if both sides fight to the death, then I'll be able to pick up the scraps. Awesome. The helicopter hovering in the sky couldn't hear what they were talking about, but that flag master's expression didn't seem very good. Adding on the empty seat, it wasn't hard to guess that it should be because of someone who was late. If it's really Voidless Realm, then something bad should have happened. Wuchi, who was sitting behind Kai Yun, had a gloomy expression. This Voidless Realm is actually acting like a big shot and being late. They are really tired of living. Just when everyone thought that Voidless Realm's people wouldn't come, a strange scene actually appeared in the clouds. A 5-colored auspicious cloud slowly floated over. Such a beautiful scene stunned everyone. That cloud was like cotton candy, I really want to take a bite of it. Kai Yun's gaze gradually became serious, because that 5-colored auspicious cloud was a type of illusion. Inside the 5-colored auspicious cloud, it was a truly powerful existence. Suddenly, an enormous foot stretched out from the 5-colored auspicious cloud. When the foot stepped on the sky, a powerful aura immediately exploded out. Just the size of this foot alone was enough to make people speechless. At the very least, it was as big as the entire South Wuchi realm, and it was filled with an aura of vicissitudes. Boom! Another foot suddenly stepped out, and the entire sky seemed to be trembling. A terrifying aura immediately rushed towards South Wuchi. Lucifer and Miyamoto Shotai's expression became alarmed. This aura is too terrifying. Could this be Voidless Realm's trump card? As expected, I still underestimated Voidless Realm, and looking at the situation, Voidless Realm is here to cause trouble. That's right, Yi Hua is here to cause trouble, and he purposely chose to appear when the other party is furious. Kai Yun's stiff expression gradually relaxed, and a smile even appeared on his face. This Voidless Realm is a bit interesting. Flag Master, this should be an ancient divine beast. Luo Ho, who was sitting behind Kai Yun, said lightly. Kai Yun nodded. And, it's a black tortoise. Judging from the expressions of the people from South Wuchi, they did not seem to be afraid. They were just amazed. This Voidless Realm is actually able to call over the ancient divine beast, Black Tortoise, to help them out, not bad at all. The huge body broke through the clouds and appeared before the eyes of the world. A.O. The Black Tortoise let out a loud roar that pierced through heaven and earth. The helicopter next to it was instantly affected, causing it to stall. It swayed left and right as it descended. Fortunately, the pilot was an experienced driver. He pulled the helicopter up, but he didn't dare to go back. This was no different from courting death. Without the helicopter's broadcast, the scene disappeared in an instant. Countless people were cursing. Damn it, I'm already halfway through taking off my pants, and you're showing me a black screen. Can you broadcast properly? Hurry up and send someone over. However, no one was willing to go. It was no different from courting death. After all, compared to money, life was more precious. If the broadcast continued for one more second, they would be able to see the figure of the Supreme Overlord. On the back of the Black Tortoise, Yi Hua stood with his hands behind his back and stared at South Wuchi, who was not far away. This is the first time I'm fighting against South Wuchi, I naturally can't lose to him in terms of aura. You want me to walk down the stairs? Ha, you're thinking too much. Behind Yi Hua was Donghuang Baiji, and beside Yi Zizi, Lai Gu, and Death Mage were Donghuang Baiji. Compared to South Wuchi, the Black Tortoise was already one size bigger. Especially when the Black Tortoise stepped out from the multicolored clouds, that scene was extremely shocking. South Wuchi appeared to be too small, just like a small sail in the sky. And as long as the Black Tortoise steps down, the entire South Wuchi would turn into a pile of ruins. However, Yi Hua did not intend to do that. The Black Tortoise could be seen walking forward slowly, and when it got close to South Wuchi, the black tortoise stretched out its body and steadily placed it on the stairs. Yihua walked forward slowly, and the 4 people behind him followed behind him unhurriedly. Their faces were brimming with confidence. At this moment, Kaiyun suddenly stood up, seemingly wanting to welcome Yihua's arrival. Yihua and the 4 people stepped onto the ground of South Wuchi, and the black tortoise behind him once again let out a sky-shaking roar. The black tortoise's pair of aged eyes stared fixedly at South Wuchi and the 4 people, seemingly wanting to use a move, Doom's eyes. This is a warning to everyone in South Wuchi, if you dare to go overboard. Then prepare to welcome the fury of a primordial divine beast. After using Doom's eyes, the black tortoise slowly left and disappeared within the layer of clouds, as if it had never appeared before. Lucifer and Miyamoto Nagata were already stupefied. Who is this man? Isn't the person behind him the Empress? Why is the Empress standing behind him? Hey, why would the black tortoise listen to you? Aren't you embarrassed? Kaiyun asked curiously. That black tortoise was a prideful and arrogant species among the primordial divine beasts, so how could it possibly listen to a human? Yihua looked at Kaiyun and said faintly, "Little wimp, what do you know?" Lucifer, Miyamoto Nagata thought to himself, this man must have angered Flag Master just now. To actually dare to call Flag Master a little wimp, this should be a huge crime. Flag Master, go. Kaiyun went into a daze for a moment, then shouted out loudly, "You are the one who is a little wimp. Your whole family is made up of little wimps." This kind of tone wasn't insulting, it was just like the helpless scolding of a child. Miyamoto Nagata was in disbelief. Flag Master, are you really a child? How can you say such a thing? Yihua stood up and shouted out coldly, "Voidless realm. As a guest. You all are very rude. I am also a reasonable person. The way I acted just now can be considered as ordinary. Is your South Wuchi very big? I will bring an even bigger one over and let you all know what is called a colossus. With just a single body, I will be the size of your entire South Wuchi. Impudent. You dare to be rude to his honor. Didn't your Flag Master teach you manners? Lai Gu wasn't careless either. Even the other party's subordinate is shouting at me, so how can I remain calm? When it comes to talking, I have never been afraid of anyone." The atmosphere in South Wuchi had already dropped to the freezing point, and it seemed like a huge battle was about to break out. Right now, Donghuang Baizhi wasn't afraid at all. Her husband's strong confidence had given her a firm belief. Furthermore, her husband would never do something that he wasn't sure of. At this moment, Lucifer suddenly stood up and said with a smile, "We are all civilized people, how about we sit down first?" You're tuning in to the Blissful Bookshelf YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.